Peace. Greetings to you all. It's your brother Nyhiem, BKA Lord Abba, aka Mr. Just the Facts. What's going on, family? First and foremost, let's do a little housekeeping. Make sure that y'all hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you are not subscribed to the channel, and hit that little bell icon next to the subscribe button so that you will be notified and be a part of the notification nation every time we go live. I'm trying to get used to the new glasses, family. The glare is killing me. I'm going to take them off for now. You know, you get to the point where your eyes start to, looking at these computer screens for so long. You already know. So look, let me give a quick shout out. Well, first and foremost, we got BTP Ali in the building, aka Chuck Freedmen. We got our brother Grim Freedman in the building, aka the Urban Mystic. The Freedman is on deck, man. So Sister Roz is in the audience. What's good, sis? Lafayette Ward, peace, brother. Tazina Mystic, peace, sis. I see you. Descendant of Job Freedman in the building. Golden Panthero is in the building. Sister Kelly, was good? I see you. My Nevada Freedmen are in the building. Let me see. Late Show 42 said, Mr. Queens, get the money. Yes, Mr. Queens, get the money is in the building. Peace, brother Chris. I see you. Miss Battle, you already know. I love my wife, 0007. Peace, fam. Keep up all that good work you're out there doing by keeping the memory of our slain children alive in hopes that one day that we'll have some type of remedy for them. Brother, my bro Dre is in the building. Sister Shanna Kim is in the building. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So tonight, family, we are having a discussion, and tonight's discussion is centered around issues that we've been building on for the past year, 2 years or so since we've been on this platform. Nationality, political status, race, and lineage. And we're gonna get into some, some things, because there is, I should say, a lot of confusion surrounding this reparations movement. I'm hearing a lot of
things that conflict, and they do not go with the definitions of what, especially the legal definitions of what is needed, let me say, insofar as criteria is concerned, et cetera, et cetera. So, we're going to get into all of that. I just kind of wanted to frame it. I'm going to let my bros come in. BTP Corey is in the building. What's going on, fam? On Cold, brother. My brother Donald, what's going on, bro? I see you out there. Y'all in the Houston area, make sure y'all go to that brother's event on March 5th. It's going to be a powerful, powerful Freedmen event. Hit that brother up. He's in the chat right now on Cold Brother 83. Miss Battle said it's been a mess in the Twitter spaces. Yes, it is. I was in the Twitter space earlier and I was listening in, and some of these people, they've been on Twitter or in Twitter spaces for a couple of months, and all of a sudden these people have become experts. You know that commercial where it's like your car break down and then some guy come out of nowhere and the person asks, "Are you a mechanic?" Say, "No, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn last night." This is the type of scholarship that I'm witnessing in a lot of these Twitter spaces. I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night type scholarship. Peace, Bond Dog. I see you, fam. So, Brother Ali, look, man, let's jump right into this thing. I want you to open it up, and we're gonna roll from there.
All right. Well, let me know if you can hear me okay first.
I hear you.
I'm having a little technical issue. Okay. So what I want to do is this. I'd like to start with Twitter. I think that's a good place to start, right? So let me just explain. For Black History Month, what I was doing was posting a bunch of facts that I came across that I thought was interesting, or even more so pertinent. And so, those who saw my Twitter posts will see that, I was posting different things all throughout the month. A lot of it about New York and then other things. So it just so happens that I have posted two things. One was a post about Cali House, and then there was a post about the pension bill as presented by Walter Vaughn in 1890. So what I want to do is I would like to pull up the actual tweet, right? Because I think what happened is some confusion came about in terms of the purpose of the tweet. Now, I just had the tweet up, and then for some reason it moved. But just give me a second, because it's, it's right here. Just bear with me, family, because it's a recent tweet, very recent tweet. And I'm going to share the screen so people can see it. Let me share this real quick. Peace to the Freedmen family. Peace to the Freedmen family, everybody that's on deck. So here's what we have, right? I don't know, I guess you can see it. This was, the February 28th. So you're looking at the last day of Black History Month. And this to me was pertinent for a number of reasons. Not just that it's dealing with quote unquote Black history, but we're trying to drive a certain point home, right? And that has everything to do with the language that we're using as we're moving forward in this reparation space and dealing with certain degrees of opposition. And so what you have here is this tweet. This is what I said. There are significant reasons why BTP returned to and started moving with the American freedman status as opposed to the black racial classification. The further into the reparations rabbit hole we go, the more it will become apparent. And what I did was I posted an image from the cover of a book called Vaughn's Freedmen's Pension Bill, and it says, being an appeal in behalf of men released from slavery, a plea for specifically American freedmen. Now, the reason that I put this up here was because I wanted people to see the language that this man was using. There was no other reason, right? Specifically, the language. When you look at this particular image, the thing that is the most bold and in your face is the term American freedman, right? And Walter Vaughn, from my knowledge, happens to be the first person to actually bring forth an appeal of this nature on behalf of the American freedmen. So even though we grant the title or status to Callie House as the mother of reparations, this man's pension bill actually came 9 years before the one that I found from the organization that Callie House presented to Congress. So what happened was this, right? Because I think there was some confusion caused by a tweet that Dr. Darity posted on this particular bill. I mean, not bill, this particular post. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see so we can see what he said. All right. So here's the deal. And I'm just doing this because I want to clarify for the people. I don't want there to be any confusion or misdirection in terms of the purpose of the post in the first place. He says, this is important, but let's be cautious about celebrating Walter Vaughn. Very cautious. Callie House built her organization after deciding the movement for freedmen's pensions had to be separate from Vaughn's grifting. Now, again, the purpose of the post was not to uplift, exalt, or celebrate Walter Vaughn in any kind of way. The purpose of the post was to really highlight the language that Walter Vaughn was using when he put forth his plea for pensions, which was specifically for American freedmen. Now, we're going to get into why American freedmen is a proper term to use as opposed to any other kind of freedman. But I'm going to give you a little brief example of why we use that as opposed to just freedmen. When you mention the term freedman, it could mean a number of things, right? But two particularly could mean the Indian freedman, or it could mean the freedmen who were emancipated by way of the 13th Amendment. So when people like Vaughn or the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen use the term American freedmen, we're making the distinction between us, meaning those of us who come from the families emancipated by the 13th Amendment nationally, versus those who were emancipated a year later by the 1866 treaties with the United States through United States enforcement of such. Okay, so that's why, number one, we're using American freedmen. Number two, which is a very important point, American denotes your nationality. All right, now Nyhiem and the other brothers are going to go further into that, but that's what I wanted to point out, is that the purpose of the post is to highlight language, not to celebrate anyone. language, because we know right now, based on certain recent events, that language is an issue, right? And that's something that we kind of already knew for a while, which is the reason for doing things the way that we've been doing them, right? And approaching it from the position that we've approached it from is because we already knew that language was going to be an issue. Those of us who come from a certain background knew that race specifically was going to be an issue. We already knew that, right? And so what we're trying to do is go around that by not dealing with that at all, but specifically dealing with the terminology and the status of the families right after slavery, right? Being that those people specifically were the ones who were directly owed, immediately owed, coming out of that horrible institution, us being the descendants of those people who inherited the condition of slavery, right? We inherited, which you've seen me posting, that stain of slavery. And so we're just trying to return to that place where those people were and pick up from where they left off, and have the United States government pick up from where it left off at that point in time and do what's needed to be done. So that's the point of that post. And I just want to say even further, if you look on my Twitter line, you'll see that earlier in the month, let me see if it'll scroll. Earlier in the month, I actually posted, oh, hold on, let me do this. I see what's happening. I posted about Callie House, right? Same individual that Dr. Darity pointed out wanted to separate her movement from this man based off of his reputation of grifting off of the people. So I'm just going to show you earlier in the month that I actually posted about Callie House and the bill that she presented, her organization. Now let me just real quick. I'm gonna get through it, guys. We almost there.
Yeah, we want to let people know, why we're doing what we're doing. Josh said, "Go back up." Oh no, don't go back up. Don't go back up. Don't go back up. Okay. Josh is being funny right now.
So he's funny. Yeah. So in this one, I'm just gonna show this real quick, right? February 18th, I posted something, and this was a bill. Actually, there are two bills here in this image, but showing mainly one dealing with the Freedmen language. And I know people have been asking about bills that specifically mention Freedmen, etc. They're definitely there. You can't. It's hard to find them if you don't know where to look, but they're there. So even the Callie House bill, right? So here's the one. February 18th is when I posted this, right? 10 days before the thing from Vaughn. So it says here, Callie House, right? Callie House was an early proponent of reparations for freedmen in the form of pensions. Her organization, I said they, but her organization presented Bill S-1176, which was a representation of what was earlier proffered by Walter R. Vaughn. Now, when you look at the bill itself, well, this doesn't help, but when you look at the bill itself from Callie House and the bill that Walter Vaughn presented, you'll see that the language is actually identical. So this is the point I want people to take away from all of this. Even with Callie House and her organization separating themselves from Vaughn, what I want people to take away from all of this is language, right? Because that's the point that we're trying to make. It's language. So even with separating from Cali House, what you have is an acknowledgement, a recognition that regardless of his reputation of grifting, they still felt that he got the language right. So that's the thing I want people to take away from this. Don't exalt Walter Vaughn. Don't exalt anybody, because at the end of the day, whatever's going to take place in terms of the realization of a reparations package is going to take us, those of us who are here right now, alive in this day and time. Walter Vaughn can't help us. Callie House can't help us. Queen Mother Moore can't help us. None of those people can help us. We can learn by examples, learn from the examples that they've set, but really it's about what we're going to do from this point forward. All right. So it's really not about any of those people as much as it is about what they did, what they left behind, and what we can draw from it. So again, when you read Callie House's bill, you'll see that what they presented is identical in language to what Walter Vaughn presented. So the important part to take away from this bill is it says that it's a bill to provide pensions for freedmen and so forth. All right. So the language is there. If you look at, let me know if this switches, bro. Did it switch screens? My
Yeah, what you said, Ali?
Did it switch screens? Can you see a different screen now?
No, I just still see S1176.
All right, so let me switch real quick because I want the people to see this. Just give me a second. Give me a second. I know y'all want to go in. Just
no. I mean, we wanted you to clarify some things because, you know, it was a whole conversation about Walter Vaughn on that particular thread, and we didn't want anybody to miss the point.
Yeah, I don't want people to miss the point, please. Like, when I post stuff, I think about, like, I don't know about everybody else, but the stuff that I post, I actually think about it before I do it, right? Because I'm doing it with intention. It's not just random stuff that I'm posting. I'm doing it with an intention, and I'm trying to actually convey some kind of a message. It's not just random, even Black history stuff. There's a message in it, right? So now look, Walter Vaughn, this is his bill, right? And you can pull up the one from Callie House and read the whole bill, which we've done in the past, and you'll see that it's line for line the same exact bill, even the breakdown on how the pensions are to be distributed. So now look, it says prepared by Walter Vaughn of Omaha and introduced by Honorable W.J. Connell from Connell MC from the 1st Nebraska District by request. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives, the House of House of Representatives, United States, and the Congress assemble. Section 1, that all persons released from involuntary servitude, commonly called slaves, etc., etc. So now if you read Section 1 here and read Section 1 of the Callie House bill word for word, exact same, and that's all the way through. Now, one of the things I want to highlight here is his use of the term freedmen, right? So his language was there, and she and her organization felt strong enough about it to duplicate it and represent it in 1899. So I stopped sharing that screen. And bro, if you want to jump in and go somewhere else with it, that would be cool.
Indeed. So, you know, we wanted to go into that because we don't want any confusion. There's too much of that already. It's a lot of confusion. Like I said earlier, there are people in Twitter spaces that just started reading about some of this stuff a couple months ago, and all of a sudden they're experts and they get flustered when somebody asks them actual questions pertaining to the things that they're talking about, because they just haven't put in no study at all. And if we're not going to get this right, then I don't think people should take this Freedmen name, the status name, and then just try to run around with it looking for internet attention. This is a status that was given to our ancestors who came out of slavery. In fact, the name Freedmen itself embodies the fact that we were once enslaved. This is not rocket science. And, I know that's a cliche term, but this is not rocket science. We figured this out. And let's set the record straight. This isn't no carve out of ADOS. I want to speak to that real quick. I said I wasn't going to mention that group, but you know what? I do want to mention that. We came into this thing already with our eyes wide open, seeing and knowing. We sought to add on to the conversation. We made adjustments as we went along. And those people, based on the things that we taught right here on Be The Power, made adjustments as well, because we came in the door teaching. And I wanted to clarify that. And we started the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen while we still supported what we thought was a reparationist movement. Just want to be clear on that. I don't want nobody to ever get that misconstrued again. And if they do, send them this video or cut this clip out and put it up. We are children of no one in this space. Our schools of thought go back to the 1800s and early 1900s. So I want to clarify that for the record. And in those discussions, we understood the problematic usage of the terminology, American descendants of slavery. And we can get into both, right? Slavery, we've touched on this over and over again. It represents what? An institution. That institution includes white folk. Not only does it include white folk, it includes the businesses that the planter class own, and the insurance companies in New York that insured them, that indemnified them, etc., etc. That it's an institution. When you say slavery, the first two things that conjure in a person's mind is slave and master. That's across the board. It doesn't matter what, if it's a country it is, if the United States, etc. If you say slavery, then you know that there were slaves and you know that there were masters. So we knew then that the term was problematic. So we came up with the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen as an organization, but we weren't trying to cause no strife at all. We supported what we thought was a reparations movement, not a man worship cult or a wannabe man worship cult. I just wanted to clear the air on that before we dig a little bit deeper. Brother Ibrahim and Grim, y'all want to say something before we start pulling up some records and stuff?
I want to say something real quick, brothers. And, this is not going to be, a surgical dissection, so to speak, like you brothers are about to nobly perform on this show, right? This is my appeal to all of these people in these Twitter spaces and Facebook and Twitter, and Instagram, and all of this kind of stuff. But this is a moral appeal to our people, a philosophical appeal, And I've been checking, I've been expressing this to my brothers too in private. I've been looking at the Bible, so to speak, in a whole different light, man, in regards to y'all might hear the music in the background. Please forgive me. It's not coming from me. It's it's carnival time in this area. But anyway, our people, man, are in some serious trouble if we downgrade ideas or people's ideas based upon their fame and their stardom on YouTube or Twitter or what have you, and the particular idea and the character of the person that you may like. And if we keep doing these kind of things, man, we're in trouble. And the reason that I brought up the Bible, man, is that, you know, we as a people, man, we're going to have to realize, man, when like a brother like Ali putting out some good information and somebody just throws a monkey wrench in the whole program and stuff like that, man, just to muddy the waters, man. And you know, another school we talk about, man, they say that the generality of men are ignorant, you know, and we need to wake up and stop following these personalities and, and people because we think that they cool. And when someone presents to us information that's truth and the information that's truthful and undisputable, you only deny it because you believe that it goes against the paradigm of your guy or gal.
That's right. That's right.
And that's some infantile stuff, man. And I'm gonna say this, bro. It's just like the book of Exodus. And everybody who knows study the Bible know what that is, man. And really, man, the freedmen, and I know you go into this, Nyhiem, so I ain't gonna say too much. But man, the freedmen, man, we pretty much back in a situation of a type of Exodus type condition to whereas Moses was given these degrees of morality, man, to the people of Israel in the wilderness when they were finally set free from Pharaoh. And regardless of the instructions that they were given from the lawgiver Moses, you know, the Levitical laws and these laws, they wanted to do what they wanted to do in the wilderness, regardless to whether or not the man of God was on the scene.
That's right.
You know, and
Preach, brother Grim, preach.
and I'm telling y'all, man, I'm looking at this thing, man, in a whole different light, man, and we go end up just like those people. And some people listening may know where I'm going, man. None of those people, man, made it to the point to where they were supposed to be at. None of them made it to the promised land, man. God had led them people around in the wilderness for 40 years until all that generation, man, was dead. Man, look how much time Israel lost because they didn't want to follow the instructions. And we seem to be the same in mentality. And we looking for the cool cats, the cool points, the this, that, and the other, man. And nobody really want to understand what's going on with this Freedmen thing. This Freedmen thing is dope. And I just want to reiterate to what Brother Nyhiem was talking about, man. This whole concept of freedmen, man, we've been on this stuff way before ADOS, even though we wasn't necessarily calling ourselves freedmen and we were all in other different schools of knowledge. All of these brothers, man, on this phone or on this computer, rather, we were all studying our relationship to this country in regards to the Emancipation Proclamation on all of the laws in regards to being freed. And we realize how important the Reconstruction era was and is to the conditions that we are having today in 2020. And we was building on that and building on that. So when we talk about freedmen, y'all, we're not taking or creating a term. Some people be saying, yeah, whatever term you want to use, freedmen or this one or FBA or ADOS, whatever. You know, this whole freedmen term, nobody is using this freedmen term as an alternative so we won't be called something else.
That's right.
You follow what I'm saying?
That's
this
right.
freedmen term is not an alternative to any of that stuff. And y'all have heard, and I don't know if y'all are listening or not, but the brothers, I don't come on as much, but the brothers break this stuff down. This stuff is rooted in law. Like they said that 1865 is a new era of time now, right? So if 1865 was a new era of time, and Ali touched on it too. He kept saying language, 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 language. Everybody on this phone probably been in a car accident or something to that effect, or most of us have. When we get lawyers, right, to represent us in any kind of tort claim, right? When we get lawyers to represent us, we want our lawyers to go into the courtroom or go into arbitration in language, because all of this
That's
stuff
right.
is actually rooted in language. Lawyers learn the science of language, the meaning of terms, things that can make your case absolutely obsolete comes down to words, phrases, and sentences. And then you have to realize that sometimes the words you may be using in law may mean something totally different.
Talk to him, Grim.
So this whole Freedmen thing, you know, y'all got to jump on Noah's Ark, man. Period. Because this whole Freedmen thing is the key and the link to untie whatever compensation and reparations is. It is, because you can't just go around saying, "Oh," because see, that was the era of our predecessors and the people who came out with reparations and turned it into a bill and had the bill go before Congress and or try to get it before Congress. See, and even our predecessors and people who sued and their cases was thrown out and so on and so forth. They just say, "Oh, you know what? We were black slaves. We built this country and we built everything, and now they owe us money." You see what I'm saying? They weren't using the language that was set up in the government by our abolitionist friends. You follow what I'm saying?
That's
Who
right.
helped us, and the brothers and sisters who were the freedmen. Frederick Douglass. You understand? Nobody was saying that stuff. Frederick Douglass was a mastermind, because Frederick Douglass really understood, and he even went against some of his abolitionist teachers, because in his studies, right, Frederick Douglass began to understand the unconstitutionality of slavery. Y'all ain't never hear none of those people who calling themselves everybody's mama, people who even come from that movement, even discuss these early American degrees. And if you
Come
don't
on, bro.
understand these early American degrees of knowledge in law and political science, the way that this stuff was brought together, you'll never get to know where you're going. The bottom line is the whole thing that is, it ain't rooted that, "Oh, I was black, oh, I was a slave, you let me go, you owe me money." That's the basic rudimentary idea of that. But the whole Freedmen concept or the Freedmen philosophy is rooted in the law. And we go back to Frederick Douglass and his teachings that when you have someone that is a citizen and you understand that slavery in its beginning was unconstitutional, that's when you start proving those things and you really start proving the justice claim based upon what happened in those early American days, and also after the Reconstruction, that's when the compensation begins. You
Come
talk
on, man.
about tort and things that have been done to people who have been day one citizens. And that's where the compensation, it don't come for you calling yourself slavery or a slave. The act of what the people created in the antebellum South went against their laws. They knew it. This was
Come on, bro.
Abraham Lincoln's argument. This was Justice McLean. Well, Abraham Lincoln backed up the arguments of
Justice
Justice
Curtis.
McLean, or Justice Curtis, excuse me,
Curtis
and McLean,
and McLean.
and McLean,
That's right.
exactly. So wasn't nobody talking about this before the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, man. And you know, that's the thing. So when you start linking back to that, that's when you begin to start to build the case, man. And let me
That's
tell
right.
y'all something. I'm gonna let my brother Ibrahim go, or whoever want to go, man. You all should support this Freedmen movement, because it's not Nyhiem's, it's not Ali's, it's not mine. It's your movement.
That's right.
You all should join the Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, today, to help push our concepts and the idea forward of the Freedmen philosophy, because outside of the Freedmen philosophy, they ain't no connection.
That's right.
And people are going before this stuff, and they starting to see now. When people claims are being discarded, they starting to see now. You understand what I'm saying? And we've been on these degrees, man. Ain't nobody birthed us. We aligned ourselves with certain things because we
Facts.
thought it was moving in the right direction. But see,
That's
people egos was bruised, and this is what's going on in these chats. I'm gonna shut up. I promise you. A lot of these people, man, amongst us, they want to be big eyes and little U's, man. And I'm gonna tell y'all, I know a lot of y'all don't like BTP. You understand what I'm saying? And y'all don't like us because we tell the truth. Other than that, they should be 1,000 people watching this demonstration right now.
That's right.
1,000 people should be on this thing. And everybody that come on and build should share this out on at least one of their doggone platforms or whatever. And
Facts.
people should be, man, that's all you have to go back in the catalog of the videos these brothers made and all of the valuable information that they have been putting out over the past years. But none of these brothers get the credit. And people over there in the other acronyms be watching these shows and stealing ideas from these brothers, man. And acting like they said the stuff first. I'm gonna have to tell it plain, man. You know, we and people who had anti-black concepts, people like Wars, and I don't want to get into all of this, but man, y'all seen us dismantle all types of bogus arguments, man, against our status and against our people, anti-blackness, but nobody want to give BTP and the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen the credit, man. And I gotta tell it like it is, man. And that's the bottom line, bro. You know, you have the thing about it, man. People so infantile, and they don't necessarily think that what we're telling is truth. I mean, it's untruth. You know what they really mad at? That they ain't do it first.
That's right. That's right.
So they find ways not to do it, and they just because they may not want to move down south. You making $500,000 a year where you at? Then stay there. But don't tell nobody, oh man, I don't think the moving back south is a good idea. Because
That's right.
you live in large in California, or you live in large in New York, or wherever
That's
you
right.
at. And see, people personalize this thing. It's like me and Ali was talking about. Instead of saying, hey, well, the back to south strategy might not be for me, but it might be for you.
That's
So
right.
they'll tell a man who been mopping the floor in California and leave work and go live under the bridge, not to apply to the back south strategy, but the brother, you understand, can come down here, find a better position for the most part, and live under a roof with running water and electricity, if not own his own home. And aid and assist the freedmen by becoming a part of the electorate in that area.
That's right.
So, and I'm going to say this, the people who say, well, if they leave here, well, what about the rest of us? We ain't going to leave y'all hanging. They only need 22%.
That's right.
Nobody, you think that they got lawmakers who may be a lawmaker from Mississippi who will talk about his interest or her interest in what's going on in Texas. Because see, that's the problem. People don't understand how the legislative bodies work. Y'all think that if somebody leave New York or something like that, just because they move south, y'all think we gonna let them play y'all legally because of contingency of freedmen move back to their ancestral homes? No, come on.
That's right.
We got to be logical about this thing, man. And that's what I say. I've been studying these Bible degrees, man, all over again and looking at it. If we don't get off our horses of, I want to be the next superstar, I want to be the next YouTube sensation, I want to be the Twitter sensation for the day. If we don't get off that, sometimes social media, bro, is the worst thing ever freaking created, man, because it gave a voice to every freaking silly clown and clownette, man. That's
right.
out there.
That's right.
And people want to be superstars. And now you got people out here blinding our people with this pseudo madness that people never came over here on slave ships and all kinds of ignorant foolishness, man. And we gonna be just like them Israelites walking around in that wilderness trying to figure out what the hell is going on, and ain't none of us go get it.
That's right.
Fire, man.
Ibrahim, I want you to come in, but I'm ready to start cooking.
Yeah, pretty much that.
Yeah, I'm ready to start cooking. I'm ready to start.
So I would
just add
that, I'm glad that people are migrating over to the Freedmen language, but the internet is kind of like the microwave. Like, you want it done and you want it done now. And when you actually see, I think this is a mixture of ego and some other things. Is that we've seen it with a few cases, just recently, where certain individuals didn't get the success that they wanted using a certain terminology, so they fell upon Freedmen kind of as like a secondary language, right? And without understanding like the real understanding of Freedmen, they just ran off with it real quick and kind of miseducated the public.
Because let me say, Ibrahim, they wanted it to be another clique, like the hashtag acronym groups that are out there. That's what they wanted it to be. And this is why many of them have disdain towards us, because it's not that. And we're teaching what it is.
Well, I would just say, you have to understand the designation and what it means, and it's used for, right? So you can properly weaponize it to benefit you and your people. And a lot of the things that y'all do on this channel is like being in college in the lecture hall. It's not always entertaining and fun and pretty. It's the real work of like getting into the mud and like really reading these bills and digging through these documents or reading these legalities of certain cases that didn't happen. And a lot of people don't like that. You just want it now. And that's just not how it's done. And like I'll just say, we've seen this recently. A lot of the language in some of these repair acts was incorrect, and that might have a drastic outcome. So I would just, put the egos to the side. Let's not be disunified, especially in something that, BTP didn't create this Freedmen language.
That's right.
Why would you go elsewhere to try to learn or circumvent them when, they put it all out in videos for you to learn and educate on right now? This is the internet. If you want fast, this is the fastest way you're going to get it. You're not going to get it no faster than that. The only thing you can do is do what Ali and Logic and Nyhiem do and dig up the documents and really understand for yourself, or just come to the source and get it. But if you are advocate for your people, I don't see why you won't, get it and get it right so you can weaponize it properly. And I'll just end on that note.
Indeed. I got a phone. I'm not going to put the person on the spot. I got a phone call yesterday from a sister that's in the reparationist movement. And she called me because she had been saying the wrong thing when it came to the Freedmen. and she read something, and she realized that I might be saying something wrong. So she called me and asked me a question. I'm not going to even say what the sister was saying because I don't want nobody to even put two and two together. And, you know, I don't even know if the sister would mind me even bringing it up, but just I'm not going to do it. And so, you know, once I schooled her on what it was, you know, she was like, you know, I've been saying the wrong thing the whole time. And then I was doing more research. And when I read what I was reading, it was a conflict in what I was saying, with what I was reading, with what I was saying. There was conflict. So she was like, well, let me call one of the brothers that I know that have been teaching on this thing for over a year. I think we've been teaching on, we've been about, definitely over a year on this Freedmen thing. So we incorporated the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen in 2020, May, I believe it's May or June of 2020. May or June of 2020. And I've respected that, because if there's an issue that I'm unsure about and I know that there's someone more knowledgeable than me, I am going to hit that person up. I'm going to hit that person up, point blank, period. I'm going to hit them up and I'm going to be like, look, I'm kind of confused on this thing right here. Can you clarify for me? And then I'm going to get the clarity, because I know I'm speaking to somebody that knows what they're talking about. BTP knows what we're talking about. We don't get on here and say that much because it sounds like gloating or bragging. And so we tone it down and we just keep putting the information out there. And it just seems like people don't get it and don't want to get it. But, you know, it is what it is. So we said what we wanted to say. Now we're going to get into the teachings and the records tonight. So, we got a couple more people on and viewing. So we want to start with the first leg of the title, right? Nationality. Let's get into this. And Ali, and Grim Ibrahim, we can give breakdowns to this why are we
indeed.
talking about nationality, right? We let me see. Let me move this over here. Do it like that. I guess that's better. Okay. So I'm going to read. This is from Black's Law, 9th edition, Ali.
Yeah, that's the 9th edition.
9th edition. Nationality. One, nation. We know what the nation is, right? The nation is the United States of America. The United States of America. The geographical boundaries that we know as the United States is called the United States of America. It's why we don't use the term U.S. freedmen. It's why we use the term American freedmen, because American is the demonym. I've explained this before. We've explained this before. The people in South America don't call themselves South Americans. They call themselves by their country names. Brazilians, Argentinians, Canadians don't say, hey, I'm North American. No, they say I'm Canadian. They say I'm Canadian. It's like, anyway, let's finish. 2, the relationship between a citizen of a nation and the nation itself, customarily involving allegiance by the citizen and protection by the state, membership in a nation. And we're going to come back to that. This term is often used synonymously with citizenship. Citizenship. That's why we wanted to highlight nationality, because we've been on this thing, as our brother Grimm so eloquently stated not too long ago. We've been on this. C, citizenship, which, we pulled up from the Law Dictionary over the years, probably even on this platform. 3, the formal relationship between a ship and the nation under whose flag the ship sails. We're not going to get into that part of it. But I want to go back to this part, right? The relationship between a citizen of a nation and the nation itself. We spoke of, Grimm brought up Justice McLean and Justice Curtis. Who are they? For those of you who do not know, Who are they? Well, they are the dissenters of the Dred. They are those who dissented in the decision of Dred Scott once it reached the Supreme Court. They knew that what Justice Taney was doing was unconstitutional. And they put out scathing dissents with history that showed that our people were citizens in this nation from day one and were voting in at least five northern states. Myself, Brother Ali, and Brother Grimm specifically over the past few years have put this information out. Even when we was in them other movements, we spoke to these things. That's why we know that we came into this thing already eyes wide open, seeing and knowing. We don't say that to brag or boast, but we just want to put it out there tonight. So the second part of it was customarily involving allegiance by the citizen and protection by the state. How do you gain allegiance? Well, one, we fought in every war. Two, when this country was, matter of fact, before we even get the Constitution of the United States of America, we had freedmen in the North voting. And they were freedmen because they were once slaves, and they were freed by their states' constitutions and their states' laws. And that made them freedmen. And we're going to get into that tonight as well. We're going to get into that. And then it says protection by the state. Protection. This, when you're looking at, Ali just pulled up a bill with Walter Vaughn and the Freedmen's Pension Bill. Let's pull that up real quick. This is S1176, 50th Congress, first session in the Senate of the United States, because this is going to give us a breakdown of freedmen, a clearer breakdown.
Now, mind you, this is the bill that Callie House's organization, the ex-slave organization, this is the bill that they presented.
This is the one they presented. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the correction, brother. Be it enacted, but this is basically a copy of the earlier bill. Am I correct?
Yes.
That was presented? Okay.
Yep.
Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, that all persons released from involuntary servitude, commonly called slaves, in pursuance of the proclamations of ex-President Abraham Lincoln, dated respectively September 22nd, 1862, and January 1st, 1863, and in pursuance of amendments to the constitutions of the several states wherein slavery or involuntary servitude formerly existed, recognized by the federal Constitution and laws of the United States, or by any law, proclamation, decree, or device whereby persons once held as slaves or involuntary subjects in consequence of race or color or federal or state recognition of involuntary servitude, except for commission of a crime, wherefore the part. So basically, it defined freedmen in the bill. Defined what a freedman is in the bill. Brother Ali, did you want to speak to any of that before we moved on?
No. I think this is a great demonstration of the use of language, right? And I think for the people who are detractors and who are attempting to cause chaos and confusion over the term freedmen, like there are people who are saying that there were white freedmen, completely erroneous. That's pseudo, right? It's garbage. He's breaking down right here exactly who the freedmen were and what their condition was prior to being bestowed the status of freedmen. So he's telling you who they are, right? They call them colored, they call them Negroes, they call them blacks. You understand? And so they never refer in American history to freedmen as being quote unquote white people, right? So that's just a lie that's being concocted by the hashtag crew in order to try to knock down this particular terminology, because they feel like it's replaced their hashtag in terms of relevance. So, and I'll just add that. You can go on, bro.
And the brother Ibrahim Grimm, did y'all want to share anything based on what you've heard so far?
Well, I just want to say this too, and add to it that people talking about reparations and things of that nature, right? That's all you have to do is go back and look at the things that the Freedmen's Bureau, which was sabotaged. It didn't fail, it was sabotaged. We use failure, but only in reference to the sabotage. But if you go back and you look at the things that was the Freedmen's Bureau was dedicated to do, it was basically dedicated to take the grievances. I think one of the words, I think they said the grievances and stuff for freedmen. So they had people, once they was free, they had these grievances and stuff against previous slave owners and things of that nature, and what they were owed and so on and so forth. And they filed their grievances. They even had we even have the history of a lady who once broke down her costs. You follow what I'm saying? And what her previous slave owner, you understand, owed her, So basically, in a nutshell, the Freedmen's Bureau was taking grievances and things of that nature of freedmen, and the goals and the mission was to engraft these enslaved people back into the constitutional fold and make them normal, stable citizens of the United States of America. You understand? So you can't talk about reparations without talking about the freedman aspect. Because see, you have to establish in law, right? You have to establish intent, right? And you have to establish intent. You have to establish well, I'll just go with intent. You have to establish intent. And all of that stuff is documented. You understand, the sabotage of our people by the government. So with that being said, you basically have a form of guilt. And you can point to historical cases in which government officials went against the laws of the land, even in Reconstruction. We're not even talking about the part before the Reconstruction, but they went against the stuff in Reconstruction. And you always hear the brothers talk about the 1877. So all our claims, man, our legal claims, and all of that stuff that came out of it, Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, redistricting, all of that stuff is rooted in that. And we can point to that stuff as a form of blame and a form of neglect by the government that was supposed to have protected us, because we were in a protected status, man, and actually still is in a protected status. But they made us forget that stuff, man. And that's the bottom line. And y'all heard me say this before. Everything that Dr. King did wasn't nothing new. You understand? And y'all hear Logic say we call him the second Freedman King. But basically, Dr. King was fighting for the same stuff that was supposed to be guaranteed to us by what? The Reconstruction Acts, man. Nobody just started fighting in 1950 and 60. That stuff was rehashed workings of the failings of that period that our brother Dr. King was doing, man.
Indeed, brother Ali. I see
Yes,
you
sir.
have the bill back up and you have something highlighted. Go ahead and speak on that, brother.
Well, this is just speaking about the history of the bill a little bit, saying that this Freedmen's Pension Bill, as it may be properly called, was introduced in the House of Representatives June 24th, 1890. It was read twice, which appears to be the custom, and referred to the Committee on Invalid Pensions, etc. So there's a following telegram or whatever. Let me just say this: the bill didn't pass, right? None of these pension bills for slaves, whether they coming from Vaughan or from the ex-slave society that Callie House was a member of, none of them passed, right? And unfortunately, none of them passed. But again, so this is really what we're trying to do, is point out to people that we need to pick up where these ancestors left off and finish that work. United States government needs to finish where it left off. Pick up where it left off and finish that freedom, justice, and equality work for our people. And so that's all we're really trying to point out is that the language needs to be proper. And I think that what we're seeing is that utilizing race is problematic, and that's kind of what we've been getting at, and trying to convey that message to the people and get everybody on the same page with us in terms of that.
Indeed. And we've been saying this for a while now. We knew that blackness was problematic years before people that recently figured that out on their YouTube channels that started hashtag cults did. It's one of the things that drew us to try to support the movement. That's why we set this thing up, so we could help spread the message. And we got shout outs from the people, because they knew. It's like, these guys know what the hell they're talking about. And any time we want, we can pull those direct shout outs up, because we still have them saved. But anyway, I want to go into the next part. Status. This is from Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition. And we teaching tonight, family. It's a reason why we're walking down this rabbit hole. There's a reason why. And honors for all of the contributions. Tazina Mystic, honors for your contribution. Peace to all the fam who have contributed thus far. You know, like I said, we are trying to grow our channel. We're always trying to grow this platform. We're speaking the truth over here, and we're pulling the records so that you can see it for yourself. So let's read this thing. Status, standing. Where do you stand in society? We know freedmen in America are a proxy bottom caste. We're not necessarily a bottom caste, because they don't have a caste system in the United States of America, but the way laws are drafted and enforced, etc., the way we are victims of discrimination, etc., well, we understand what the freedman status is. Ali spoke earlier to the condition of our people having the stain of slavery, macula servitutis. I think I'm saying that right. Ali always corrected me. I think I said it right that time. Macula servitutis. Okay, y'all look that term up as well. Macula servitutis. State or condition. What is the state or condition? Well, I just spoke to that with macula servitutis, right? Although we are freed, we still have the stain of slavery. We still get treated as if we are nothing more than mere slaves in this country. Immigrants, even African immigrants that look like us. Rich, melanated skin folk. Not kinfolk, skin folk, call us slaves and other derogatory
That's
names from this period.
That's right.
From this period.
Immigrants.
Y'all.
You can find right on social media. Immigrants, new Americans will come over here and call us slaves. Even, one of the things I've been noticing is a lot of the back and forth between freedmen and continental Africans is they'll throw that at you. They'll on Clubhouse, on Twitter Space, they'll throw that at you. Y'all are slaves. Y'all are slaves. So what they're basically telling you is that stain of slavery has been passed down from generation to generation. Even though you were born free, you still occupy the state or condition of a freedman. It has never changed. That's your reputation, right? Status is also synonymous with the word reputation. And so
that's right.
Our reputation precedes us.
That's right.
It came before we did. You understand? It was already there. All we did was inherit it.
That's right.
Right? So I just wanted to add that for more context, bro.
That's right. No, definitely.
Hey, can I add something real quick?
Definitely.
About this black and Negro thing? Like, yo, and here's the thing, man. Like, this is and I don't have my notes with me, but this is not a thing that we made up either. You understand what I'm saying? And neither is this something that had been used only by another movement that we had been coming from. We've been doing this research, and then we found out that a brother who was an acquaintance at some point in Frederick Douglass' later history, a brother from who hailed from Baltimore, Maryland, by the name of Reverend Harvey Johnson, and he wrote a book called "The Nations from a Point of View." And when you read his book, towards the end of this book, this reverend, this Christian brother, Christian minister, was basically talking about the usages of the whole Negro, black Negro, same thing. He was talking about the use of this word as applied to us, and this brother was breaking down this whole word, and he tied all of this stuff and the usages of the word back to the to the Roman Empire in reference to slaves. So that ties back into what Brother Ali was saying about the stain of slavery. You understand what I'm saying? All of these terms and stuff was used to designate this stuff, man.
That's
so
right.
Harvey Johnson talked about it. If I'm not mistaken, you could correct me if I'm wrong because I don't have my notes and I haven't visited this stuff in a while. But David Walker of David Walker's Appeal, the brother who wrote David Walker's Appeal, I think he spoke of that in David Walker's Appeal. You could correct me.
No, you're right. You're right.
So, like you said, we're not saying this on Be The Power because we making this stuff up. Our freedmen ancestors was rocking with this stuff.
That's
this
right.
Ministers teaching about this stuff. And also, too, another brother way back, I think in the early 1800s, before Noble Drew Ali was talking about the Negro stuff, another brother from the church by the name of Benjamin Lewis, all of them was talking about this status stuff, man, and how problematic that it would be.
That's right. That's right. So let's get through this real quick, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. And I want Brother Ibrahim to chime in as well. Let's get to it. Standing, state or condition, social position, right? We were once slaves in this country. In certain states, as I've mentioned earlier, our social position in those states changed when the laws changed. So we went from slaves as a social position to freedmen as a social position. And I'm going to get into some breakdowns of that, family. I'm gonna break that down. You're gonna show that this freedman thing is ancient. It's not something that we made up. It's not something that America itself made up. We're gonna get into that. The legal relation of individual to rest of the community. You know, they write in that legal language. It's not a lot of conjunctives, right? The legal relation of individual to rest of the community. Again, we were once slaves in the United States of America. And then we became freedmen. The problem was, as we've noted, that and it's noted in from the book From Here to Equality, that we became private. What how does that term go? The slave of one individual, I'm gonna butcher it, privately, to the slave of everybody via public subjugation through its laws.
There you go.
I know
private
I butchered
bondage
it,
to public subjugation.
Private bondage to public subjugation, right? So what is our relation to the individuals of the rest of the community? Well, if you write black codes and vagrancy laws, et cetera, although we're freedmen in these specific states, and we're going to get to some of that as well too, the state power. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Well, then you get to understand what status is. That's why we are stressing that freedmen is not a lineage. It's not a lineage. It's a status. We can look at it as a tribal. Yeah, go ahead, Ali.
No, I was just agreeing with you. It's not a lineage.
We're gonna break that down.
Yes, thank you. Please do. Please do, bro. You go ahead.
We're gonna break that down next. But and I want you to go in on it. Let me just get through this and we're gonna go into lineage. The rights, duties, capacities, and incapacities which determine a person to a given class, right? So I gave an example on my Twitter page where I said, when you get locked up and you do time, you become a prisoner, an inmate. That's a status. You get out on parole, you are still essentially locked up, not in the prison, but you're still confined to the rules of what's set by the prison and the laws, etc. Right?
So in other words, you carry the stain of incarceration.
Oh man, that's perfect. You carry the stain of incarceration. Thank you, man. That's why we be the power BTP. I want to give a shout out to my bros, man. Josh and Logic ain't on tonight, but we've been doing this for a long, long time, family. Again, we do not say this to gloat. We say this because it's a fact. It's just a fact. The parolee in many states, and it was like this nationwide damn near for a long time, couldn't vote. He or she didn't have the same rights as the average citizen did. He or she was incapable or incapacitated, we could say, based on the legal definition. And when their parole was over, their rights were restored, their condition, their social position, according to the definition, changed in this society. It continues, a legal personal relationship, not temporary in its nature, nor terminable at the mere will of the parties with which third persons and the state are concerned. This Freedmen thing was never terminated, family. It was never terminated. We just were made to not use it anymore. We pointed it out during our book club book of the month, and I want to read it again, just to reiterate from the book, The Bloody Shirt. It's from the book, The Bloody Shirt. We went over this. Let me hold this up. Get the book and read it. Go back on our channel and watch our book club book, The Bloody Shirt, Terror After the Civil War. Part 1 we did, and then part 2. Let me read what Provisional Governor Perry said. What does Provisional Governor mean? Well, he was the person that Andrew Johnson, who was the worst president in the United States of America's history, not Donald Trump, not Richard Nixon, Andrew Johnson. He restored the rebels so that they could continue in their public subjugation of us. Let's see what he says. Let's read from page 22 of the book. It says, okay, the new governor's first official act was to issue a proclamation reappointing all Confederate officials to the positions they had held in the state government at the time of the surrender. That was illegal. It was a crime. These people had committed sedition against the United States of America. If you want to use a modern or contemporaneous example, it's sort of like Trump pardoning Michael Flynn and all of those criminals that did this criminal stuff, right? Anyway, it continues. In his opening address to the convention, Perry made quick work of the freedmen. It was the delegates' unavoidable duty, he instructed them. Quote, however painful it may be to adopt a declaration affirming that slavery will never again exist within the borders of the state. So he was saying, all right, we're going to do away with slavery, private bondage, right? We're going to do away with private bondage, but public subjugation, let's read on. It says, African slavery, and this is Perry speaking, which was a cherished institution of South Carolina from our earliest colonial history. He said it was cherished. It's gone, dead forever, abolished by the war-making powers of the United States military authorities. It was likely that 3/4 of the states would soon ratify the 13th Amendment, thereby making abolition the supreme law of the land. It's constitutional. Oh, there's just so many ways we could spend an hour alone just breaking that down.
Put that status back up.
All right, okay, hold on. It says, it was a necessary condition for South Carolina readmission to the Union that their state include a like declaration in their state's new constitution. He said, until this is done, we shall be kept under military rule, and the Negroes will be protected as freedmen by the whole military force of the United States. Family, let me just read that last sentence again. We got to drive this point home because we've said this already. We've said it on that book club show. This is probably my 3rd or maybe 4th time reading this again on Be The Power. It says, until this is done, we shall be kept under military rule, and the Negroes will be protected as freedmen, not white people. I don't know where the hashtag group is getting that nonsense from, by the whole military force of the United States. And after Ali goes in and Ibrahim, we're gonna get into
this,
the Compromise of 1877. And then we're gonna get into Posse Comitatus. Like, the people don't get it. They don't get it. But y'all gonna get it tonight. Go ahead, Ali.
In conjunction with what you were just reading, I want people to see this. This is from Title 8 of the United States Code, Chapter 4, Sections 61 through 65. These were laws that were actually passed. Chapter 4 was entitled Freedmen. Section 61, laws continued in force. 62, laws enforced by the Secretary of War. 63, claims for pay or bounty and payment. 64, retained bounty fund, application for payments. 65, who deemed wife and children of colored soldiers. And then they give you the breakdown, you know, on this law, right? This is actual law that was passed. So for people who are looking for laws that were on the books that specifically mentioned freedmen, Title 8, Chapter 4, Sections 61 through 65. Chapter 4 was entitled Freedmen. And they give you a whole breakdown there. So I just wanted to give you that. You guys can look for that. You know, and if you can use any of it, use it. But just for people who don't know outside of the Freedmen's Bureau that there were actual enactments specifically for freedmen, here's one right here that you can look up for yourselves. And it talks about colored soldiers, etc., sailors or Marines, etc. This has nothing to do with white people. So again, this is outlining who these freedmen were.
That's
Negro,
right.
black, and colored were terminologies that they use for people of African ancestry and mixed people with the whole colored terminology.
And let me say real quick, and I'm going to pull the status definition back up, Ibrahim. Freedman is the one name that can't be usurped. Black has been usurped. We're going to get into Federal Directive 15 a little later.
Excellent point.
Colored has been usurped. People of color. Right?
Excellent
As you were
point.
reading that popped right up in my mind. You can't usurp freedmen, family. You
Definitely
can't
not
usurp
American
it.
freedmen.
Not American freedmen. It can't
No.
be usurped.
No.
Think, family.
Now
If
you
we
got
could just get to thinking, we will save ourselves.
save ourselves. Now you have hashtag members who say there were white freedmen, and they'll start pointing to like ancient Rome and shit like that, right? That has
We gonna
nothing
get
to
into
do
Rome too.
with us,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But the American freedmen, which is why we keep stressing specifically American freedmen, is pointing to those families whose nationality is American and who also occupy the status of freedmen. That's very, very specific. All of this delineation that everyone's looking for is right there in the term American freedmen. That's it.
And let me speak to
Grim,
yep.
real quick. I want people to see this real quick. I want you to go in, Ibrahim. I'm gonna pull status back up. I just want people to. This is Roman freedmen and freed women. I'm gonna put this link in the chat as well. Y'all know how we do, right? And it's showing an image. And in this image, even in this image, it's showing two Africans. It says Roman freedmen, a gravestone for a freed woman put up by her husband, who was also a freedman.
Woo.
Come on now. Like,
Right.
You can't, this is an ancient designation. And I'm going to get back into a little bit more of that a little later. Go ahead, Grim.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick to what Ali point is when one of the people tried to point out, oh, they were white freedmen too. See, that's blurring the lines, man, of the Freedmen's Bureau, because there was also a portion of the Freedmen's Bureau that dealt with what they call refugees. So in other words, basically poor, non-plantation owner white people that may have been displaced by the Civil War. Because I think Josh pointed this out, man. The Civil War, man, was utter destruction.
Destruction, yeah.
Utter destruction. In modern warfare, man, it's precision. They can bomb your house and not hit your neighbor's house. Man, but they tore the South to bits, man. They tore this country to bits. And, so that created a refugee problem for some of these people who were of the lower tier of so-called white society. So, but those people were not freedmen. You know, that's the bottom line to that.
Yeah, and let me just say this. There were free blacks who were part of that whole refugee status. People that were all, blacks that were already free who fell into the refugee status because they weren't freedmen themselves, previously free. There was, in other words, there were blacks and whites who were refugees, but the blacks were the freedmen because those were the people who were former slaves. They weren't white slaves. Absolutely.
Yeah. Legally, the free man and free woman term defines people who was emancipated during the American Civil War by the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment. So before that, if you was free, yeah, you were a free Negro, right? Before the actual distinction. But I wanted to get into like what it said about status. It said not temporarily and not terminable, which means your status is your status until it legally changes, and it hasn't been legally changed. So basically, it's recognized by the state. No one can tell you you're not a freeman. You can't even tell yourself you're not a freeman, right? This isn't no Rachel Dolezal thing where you can be like transracial or trans woman or trans, like you are a freeman.
That's
So
right,
even if
Ibrahim.
Come on,
somebody gets
brother.
on the
Talk
internet and
to him.
says, hey, we not freemen, and I don't know what these people are. We are this. You're not legally recognized by anything but freedmen. Now, what you can do is not recognize yourself as freedmen and miss all the benefits that come with that. And people who know you freedmen, who are in opposition to what your people need for upliftment, they definitely ain't gonna tell you, right? Because they don't want you to get the benefits in the first place. So you basically just doing their work for them by saying, I'm not freedman, right? Legally, if you say you freedman, they can't say you not because you got everything legally to prove you
That's
freedman.
right,
But they not
Ibrahim.
gonna
That's a
tell
Talk
fact.
you
to
that.
him,
If
bro.
you say
Talk
I'm not
to him.
freedman, I'm hashtag this, I'm hashtag this, I'm that, they gonna say, yeah, you are. And then
Come
legally you're
on.
gonna go into a courtroom and what? They gonna kick you out. You're gonna go into some type of congressional legislation and they gonna shut you down. You're gonna try to get some repair for your people and they gonna shut you down
That's
because
right.
you're not using it properly. Your enemy is not gonna give you the keys to success, right?
That's
Come
right.
So
on.
just come back to the masses of your people, do the research and understand what you need to free your people. It's just that simple. Your status is your status. It has never legally changed. In order for somebody to say you not freedmen, they have to go in that law and pick out where it changed legally. And
That's
until
right.
they
Come on,
do that,
brother.
Talk
we
to
free.
him, bro. Talk to him, Ibrahim. They don't understand. They don't understand. Go ahead,
Read
bro.
that
You
again.
cooking.
Read that again. A legal personal relationship,
That's
not
right.
temporary in
Not
its
temporary.
nature, nor terminable at the mere will of the parties. That's crazy.
That's right.
That's crazy.
It can't be terminated, family. This freedman thing is a legal political status of ours. It can't be terminated. It can't be.
That's a
Come
fact.
on now. BTP Josh is in. Josh, jump in real quick, bro. We're gonna go into lineage next. What you got, brother Josh?
That
Josh
F,
is
right?
crazy.
You go to jail and you catch that F, right?
That's
And you
right.
get
Gotta
out.
talk to him. Talk
And you
to him,
get
Josh.
out. Are you talking about? Are you gonna be able to say, man, I ain't no felon? No. It's
That's
just you
Cannot.
right.
got to get a status of
You
felon.
can talk to him, Josh.
When you
Talk
go to the
to him.
hospital and you have that baby, and then you gonna turn around and say, no, I ain't got the status of mama. What you talking about? I ain't nobody's mama. I ain't,
Right.
you the father. I know I'm not. I don't have a status of father. Like you can't change these conditions. You know what I'm saying? You can't just arbitrarily. You go to um, you go to let's say you go to Ukraine and you got the status of Russia or Russian. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be like, you know, what sense does it make to say no? I ain't got the status of Russian. I ain't no Russian. No. How you think just because you say something or you don't want to be something, you can change your status? It don't work that way. It don't work that way. The same way you can't change the status of a felon just because that's what you feel like and you say. Same way you can't change the status of being a mother, a father, just because you say. You can't change the status of your country, just because you say. No, it takes official action to actually change that status.
That's
And
right.
where was the official action? Just like Brother Ibrahim said, it changed our status away from being freedmen. I haven't seen none in no legislation.
Now let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We were born free, so we're not freedmen. That's not how that works either, right? It's almost like saying we were born free, so we're not freedmen. Those people that were emancipated physically from chattel slavery are the freedmen. We are not.
We're gonna get into that too. But go ahead, Ali. We're gonna get into that. We're gonna get
Again,
into
this is an inherited condition. That's why people from Africa can look at you now and say, you all were slaves. This is why people from the Caribbean or people from other countries, immigrants, can come to the United States and tell you, you all were slaves, because this condition that you inherited is synonymous with your reputation. If you look up the word status, just on like Google, right? Google uses Oxford languages as its source. A synonym for the word status is reputation. That's why I said earlier, your reputation precedes you. It came from your ancestors. It's something that you inherited. It's really no different than inheriting the racial classification of your mother, the nationality of your father, the citizenship of your parents. You inherited that through blood, right? I said it was per sanguinum, by blood. It's passing down generation to generation. You're inheriting this, and it is your status in terms of your condition or reputation in relation to the state and other people concerned with you in your society. That's why these immigrants will say you were a slave. It's your reputation, it's your status, it's your standing in society in relation to other people in society. Doesn't change based on the fact that you're a descendant of a freedman. So go ahead, Nyhiem, you could go in further with it.
Let's get in. Okay, let's get into the next stage of this thing. Let's get into this lineage portion, right? I'm gonna do some reading. This is coming from Black's Laws, 5th edition. Most of these definitions are standard. I got the one definition from Ali from Black's Laws 9th edition on, what was that, Ali? Nationality.
Status.
It was an
nationality.
Yeah, nationality. It was an updated, because pretty much the Black's Laws legal dictionary, they date back to the early 1900s, possibly before, but I want to say the early 1900s. Certain definitions are standard legally, and they haven't changed much over the years. But I was gonna show the status from Black's Law 5th edition, which came out in, I believe, the 70s. That's the physical copy that I have. I don't have the cover on it. The covers came. I'm gonna read from this a little bit as well, but most of this is standard, right? So, Sherry Thomas said we should also talk about sovereignty. Sovereignty
Why?
it's not a.
We can.
We could break it down if we have time. If we have time,
yeah.
let's revisit that. Okay, so let's get into lineage, race. And we have the semicolon there. Okay, so when we're talking about race, according to the legal definition, then we're not talking about what comes after progeny. Because you notice progeny has a semicolon and then family, ascending or descending, line of descent, yada, yada, yada. Right? So race is separate or separated here. It's not connected in the same way, let me say. In the same way, because we also see race in the definition. So race is, and I'm going to pull up Federal Directive 15 in a few minutes. Race is something, okay, well, we can trace race back to the African continent. So we can say that we have a lineage that traces back through the African continent. In our debates with the pretendians, meaning pretend Indians, we break down how you have a mother and a father. Ali does an excellent job. Ali has the math broken down, right? So you not only do you have a mother and a father, you have, because of your mother and father, a grandmother and grandfather on one side, a grandmother and grandfather on the other side. 4 people, then 8, then 16, then 32, then 64, so forth and so on, all the way until we get back to Africa. The problem is with us freedmen is that when we get here to America, and Brother Logic breaks this down, we are like the pit bull of the human race. We are the mixture of so many different people that it's hard to pinpoint one ancestor, which is why we tell those people, the pretendians, that you can't, because you have a Cherokee ancestor, say I'm Cherokee, because then it excludes all the rest of the freedmen in your family. And that's silly. It's not mathematical, right? In the sense that it is not the dominant portion of your genes. It is not the common denominator. It is a fraction, speaking in mathematical terms. So let's finish. And the bros could come in. I'm just going to read progeny, because this is what lineage is, right? Progeny. Progeny means children. So we know that my children are of my lineage, which means I am the progeny of a mother and father, which we all are. Who are the progeny of a mother and father? Okay, y'all get it. Family. Ascending or descending. Lineage, right? Ascending or descending. Who do we descend from? Our mothers and our fathers, and their mothers, and their fathers, and their mothers, and their fathers, and their mothers, and their fathers. Y'all are using lineage wrong. Sorry, ADOS. ADOS can't be a lineage. Can't be. No acronym can be a lineage. None. Zero.
Even if you use this definition, which I think is a flawed definition because it includes race.
That's right.
Right?
I
we know that
so
race is a social construction of Europeans.
That's right.
Now, even if you was to use this, ADOS is not a race, right?
That's right.
It's not a progeny. It's not a family.
That's right.
It's not a line of descent of any. It's a group of people. It's being applied to a group of people who come out of the condition of slavery. That's it, right? It's really a description. It's not an actual lineage or a race of people or progeny. It's none of that stuff. It's not a family, right? It's a group of families, but it's not a family. So ADOS is not a lineage. It's not a lineage. And don't mistake what we're saying. We're not saying freedmen is a lineage either, because we've been saying from the beginning that that's not what that is. We keep saying that it's a status, But for the people who are using the term lineage, that you're using it wrong. Even
right.
if you look at the let me share this real quick. If you look at the more modern definition of this particular term, what you're going to see is that they updated it and they took race out of it.
That's right.
Right? They
Because
took
race doesn't
completely
apply.
out. It doesn't apply.
Can
So
you
now,
also go through? Is this from the Black's Law?
yeah, this is
Okay, cool.
a more updated version.
More
See,
updated
and
version. That's right.
you'll see lineage now in the more updated version says ancestry and progeny, family, ascending or descending. Period.
That's right.
Period. Nothing
Period.
about race and stock and all of this kind
That's
of
right.
stuff. It's just your family, your ancestry. And then when you look up and
Standard
for
dictionary.
synonyms, standard dictionary, what you're going to see is a synonym for lineage is like genealogy, right? So this is like personal. It's personal to you and your family. It has nothing
That's
to
right.
do with the entire group of people or ethnic group that you belong to. Your ethnicity is your ethnicity. Your lineage is your lineage.
That's
meaning
right.
your family, your the people that you actually come from. Like I said before, the names of my lineage is not ADOS. It's Harrison,
That's right.
Thomas,
That's right.
Bradley, and Anderson. Those are the 4 immediate lineages that I can name that I come from directly. My mother was an Anderson. My father's a Harrison, right? And their parents were Bradleys and Harrisons and Thomas. You understand what I'm saying? So those are the lineages. That's the name
Talk to him,
of the
bro.
lineages. It's not ADOS. It's not Freedmen. It's not black. It's not Negro. It's not colored. It's none of that. Harrison, Thomas, Anderson, Bradley for me. Now for you all, you have to, you know what your family names are. Like my sister Roz, her one of her lineages is Mickens.
Shout out to Sister Roz. BTP
Right?
Riri is in the building.
Shout out to everybody. One
Sister
of
Roz, Sister
Brother
BTP, Riri,
Ibrahim's.
Sister Kelly. My bad. I was trying to shout out all the sisters and I got caught up.
No doubt.
Hey, bro.
One of Ibrahim's lineages is Tanner, right? He knows the rest of them. I don't know him. He knows them, right? And so one of yours is Wade.
That's
We
right.
all have several of them.
That's right.
But
Wallace
it's
is my
not
other one.
ADOS.
Wallace
There
is
you
my
go.
other one. Going back to South Carolina. Both lines,
There you go.
actually. Going back to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to make that clear. So because I see people continuously using the term lineage in the wrong way, and I think that we know where it came from. It came
And we gotta
from
say,
the hashtag crew.
Wait,
It came
hold
from the
on,
hashtag
Ali.
crew.
We gotta say this too, right? I've heard our brother Tariq Nasheed say FBA is a lineage as well. We gotta be clear. Like this doesn't just apply to one group. Like this is the facts. This is the truth. This ain't a shot at anybody. This is just the truth. The truth is that none of that can be a lineage. It can't be.
Right.
And we're going to get into
Right.
the racial component of this portion of the discussion next.
Yeah.
We being spammed right now. So
That's crazy.
block that
Yeah.
channel.
So, black is a race. It's a race. It's not a lineage. It's a race. Right. And it's
Status
a
matters.
racial
That's right, Rob.
classification. It's a racial classification that Europeans came up with. Like it or not. Like for years we've been saying that, and people will come back with all kinds of things like black is the essence of the universe, and black the land of the blacks is
The
where
land
the
of the
Egyptians
blacks.
were, and
Allah created what it was.
man from the black
man from
clay,
the true-
man was created from the
The
black
universe was
mud,
created out of triple black darkness.
triple
God.
blackness. Allah created himself out of triple
Yeah. Allah
blackness.
created
and,
himself out of the triple blackness, God.
Dark matter.
Peace,
People
God.
even
Break
would bring
it
up
down, God.
dark matter. You know what I mean? Like all kinds of things would come up trying to get around the fact that Europeans are the ones that classified our people as blacks and Negroes and coloreds and coons and sambos and niggers and neggers and all of this craziness, man. They the ones came up with all of that kooky stuff, man.
That's right.
So, for instance, right, it's funny. Our people have to keep adding black to everything. It's really funny, right? So there's a black Cherokee, black this,
That's
black,
right.
everybody.
Right. The
So
first black
even
astronaut.
the
first black CEO of. That's right.
Black
Talk to him,
Africans. Like why they got to be black Africans? Why they couldn't just be Africans?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
what the
right.
fuck? You know what I mean? So anyway, go ahead, man.
No, definitely. Ibrahim, Josh, Grim. Yeah, go ahead,
Now, I
Ibrahim.
would just say, when it comes to lineage, I went on Ancestry.com about 2-3 years ago, and I was doing my family tree, and I noticed that I kept getting these hits, and it led me back to Great Britain. And I'm like, why am I in Great Britain? Like, what's going on here? Like, and it took me a while to understand that. Oh, this is the white side of the family. This is the slave master side of the family. You know what I'm saying? This is the lineage that a lot of black people in America don't talk about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we are an amalgamation of slaves and slave masters. But I would just say, that's scientifically, right? But on the emotional side, there's some sentimental value from a lot of people that came from the hashtag movement, right? Because it brought your framing closer to where it needed to be for you to really be an effective grassroots activist. There was some positives that came out of there. But just like with the idea for Malcolm, it didn't complete him, right? You still had to make that second transition. And I would just say, you have to divest from a lot of that stuff. That stuff was used as a stepping stone for some, but it's not going to get you where you need to be. It's not going to get you to hit the mark. So, those sentimental attachments that you have to making up acronyms or to the old acronyms or using the acronyms, the internet ain't real. That stuff is done on the internet. That don't fly, when it comes to real judicial politics.
That's right.
That internet stuff is not going to transition over. And I think that's what we see now in some of these spaces. It just doesn't transition well because it's not real. It was all made up to begin with, And certain times in academia, your teacher might create some exercises for you to do to get your brain to think a certain type of way as they trying to lead you to the truth. They can't just feed you the chicken at once. They got to, give you some milk and butter first. So I would just say, as we transition, freedom is where you want to end up and where you want to be. But to effectively get there, you got to divest from a lot of this hashtag stuff. Leave that stuff on the internet. You can't take that stuff into real life and get effective, productive policy done using this internet education. You really have to get into what our people use and really dig in, man. And I think the results will be different.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Josh, Grim, what did y'all want to speak to any of that?
Peace, man. Man, this stuff, man, is just totally just amazing, man. And I never stop being amazed by the truth that this is bringing about. And in regards to certain groups and certain people, I wanted to kind of go backwards and talk about something, and this ain't no diss or nobody. I just want to say, man, work with the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. That's all.
That's all.
Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the slander. And I wanted to speak to this Freedman thing real quick. I'm kind of pivoting off, but forgive me. We talked about the American freedmen. The American is our nationality. Freedmen is the status of this particular people, because we not no immigrants, and you know, we was homemade right in this grinder right here
Right here.
in this country.
The crucible.
Exactly.
The
You know,
crucible,
so you
Grim.
know, and it's kind of like pivoting off to what I was talking about earlier. So, you know, we dropping this Freedmen information. This is the root of this Freedmen information in these days and times, coming out of the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. So, you know, we can't stop nobody from saying, hey, you a freedman. We, like we say, we don't own freedmen, you know what I'm saying? But we
That's
the
right.
one that's picking out these pertinent information and these pertinent points, so people will wake up. So you know what? I'm a Freedman Party guy. Oh, I'm a Freedman. I'm a U.S. Freedman. You know what I'm saying? The distinction thing that they sell from us. You know, for absolutely no reason other than not wanting to work with us and getting
Fact.
stuff done.
It's just
You know what
a
I'm
fact.
saying? And
Talk
this
to him,
ain't
Grim.
no shot. Like, I mean, you know, a lot of people went their way from the hashtag movement because, you know, the hashtag movement offended certain people and, you know, committed, you know, these issues to where people stepped off. Nobody can't even say they didn't even give us the benefit of the doubt to be with us. They just heard what we was talking about. Nah, they U.S. Freedmen, this Freedman, that, you know. And like I
U.S.
said, man, I'm
Freedmen
not
on
trying to,
code and all of
right.
these different. I'm like, come on,
Yeah,
let's
you know what
just.
I'm saying?
Nobody want to
They,
work together, Grim.
nobody want to work together, bro. And that I'm sorry to be repeating myself, man. We go be in Exodus, bro. Walking
40 years.
around in the desert, man,
For
for
40
40
years.
years.
That's right.
And you know, bro, a hard-headed and a stick-necked people, you know, and the thing about it, man.
Wait, Grim. Like my mother used to say, and many of our mothers used to say, a hard head make a sore fast. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Grim.
and that's the same thing. And the things that our people are doing, and I mean not them that just that particular people, but just in general, man. Like, yo, they pissed the lawmaker off so bad, they made the lawmaker break the tablet of law, curse himself, and he couldn't get to the promised land.
That's right. That's
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
You
You
going
know,
all biblical on us, Grim. You're
man, I got
preaching
to, bro,
tonight.
because
That's right. Because it
I look
applies.
at the thing, and you kind of inspired me, and I'm pretty sure you go into it, man,
Oh yeah, I'm gonna
because
get into it.
you know this whole Freedman thing, man. This thing is way beyond us. You follow
That's
what I'm
right.
saying?
That's
And,
right.
in many cases, man, in the historical level, or if you want to say on a historical level, on a religious level, a spiritual level and stuff like that, man. This stuff even kind of pointed to it when you pointed out that Black Sister Freedman grave in Rome. This stuff goes all back to ancient times, man. But I
That's
mean,
right.
I'm gonna let you get into it, bro. But I mean, man,
Hey, Grim.
you cannot.
This they the science of the libertines, right? That's another way that people can trace that back, and it even goes into the biblical aspect, you know, of the freedmen's existence and the fact that freedmen are mentioned in the Bible.
That's
Yeah,
right. We're gonna pull that up. We're about to pull that up as well.
you
We're
know,
gonna pull that
and
up as
I'm
well.
I'm gonna say this, you know, and I don't want to get too far. I mean, the Bible itself, man, just like how we came over here and we became something new and distinct from our African brothers and sisters on the continent and stuff like that. Man, the freedmen took that book, just like how I was talking about X and all of that stuff. Man, the freedmen took that book and turned it into something else, because the people that they got it from or whatever, they was just using it to whip ass and conquer people with it. And the Freedmen turn you exegesis in on that book that has not been matched to today. Matter of fact, most of the people that are using that book now get all of what they call it hermeneutics, I think. hermeneutics and
Mm-hmm.
exegesis
That's right.
on that book from the mind of Freedmen.
Come on.
You know, in the book, the free use of that book caused all kinds of that's why they didn't want us to the freedmen to read or the former or the slaves to read, because our understanding took that book and used the junk to and create entire slave uprisings, man. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
let's not talk about the what happened with the AME church, the great AME church, and oh man, I mean, I know
That's right.
I'm not trying to get religious on this program, but man, I'm just saying the breadth of this Freedman thing, man, being it just goes beyond almost my imagination, at least. And like I say, I'm amazed by it. And I just can't see these people calling themselves that they haven't even gone into the depth of study that we have about this whole Freedman thing, man. And
That's right.
we haven't even finished exhausting these Freedman degrees,
That's
and
right.
people just want to take off and just be like, "Oh, here we go," you know.
That's right.
Eh,
That's
I'm
right.
out, man. I'm out.
That's right. Josh, you want Josh? Okay, I wanted Josh to answer this question. So, Ibrahim, Ali, or Grim, you could come back in as well. Sister
Go ahead
Sherry,
with the question, bro.
Sister Sherry Thomas has a question. So, reparations is a status claim. What is your response to that?
It's a status claim. I mean, the claim is going to the people who have experienced the harms,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
It's a claim that goes to the people who have endured the damages. But what we're saying is you can't make like you can't make a claim based on race, right? And so I know where the question is coming from.
Oh
The
yeah.
question is coming from because we make the delineation away from lineage as opposed to status. So what we're saying is lineage is your family. So we all are not from the same lineage. We're not all a part of the same lineage because my last name Gray is not the same lineage as the Ways. It's not the same last name as the Browns. It's not the same last name as the Greens and the Johnsons and Jacksons. We make some of us may be related, but all of us in the all 30, 40 million of us American freedmen don't have the same lineage.
Let me
So
jump in.
when you hear that misapplied, so when we say status, we're talking about the people who have the state that share the status position of freedmen are the ones that endured chattel slavery and endured the horrors thereafter, and those are the ones that are entitled to the benefits of that claim. Go ahead, Ibrahim.
Wait, wait,
Yeah, I
wait,
would
wait,
just
wait, wait, Ibrahim. I gotta pull this up. Golden Panthero said, "Go ahead and throw a ham hock and your collard greens every once in a while." We don't eat pork. Nobody on this
honor the
panel eat
freedmen.
pork. Golden.
Nah, not one
I
of us.
would just answer her question by saying yes, it's a status claim. And it's a status claim because we were made slaves through the institution of slavery, and then we became free from slavery, and we became freemen. And that's only saying we went from slaves to American citizens. So as free people, as American citizens, we deserve all the amenities that a first world country has to offer. So we need to be made whole in a first world country. So like our status is freemen, but we are American citizens. So we deserve everything that the forefathers fought for every other American citizen to have. That's the reason why you see people get packages when they come over here as refugees or immigrants or this and that. It doesn't matter where you come from. Now you're in a first world country. You're in the first world country. You're in America. And it's certain things you need in America to be a productive citizen. So, yes, This is about getting what's owed to us so we can survive and thrive in America, in the first world country that we built. So to simply put it, yes, it's a status claim. It's a status claim that's going to take us from slaves and from that stain of slavery, like Ali was saying, to making us whole citizens who can thrive in America, in the first world country that our ancestors built.
Indeed, indeed. I mean, yes. I mean, perfect. And I'm glad that we could get some breakdown to that, because people need to understand that, man. This thing is, it's serious, man. This is our status as freedmen. Freedmen is a status that was given to specific families in the United States of America. This is how we get out of the race thing. And we're going to get into the race thing right now.
I seen the sheet brought up sovereignty. Did y'all talk about that? I had to step away for a second.
No, we didn't talk about. We may get into the sovereignty. All right,
Yeah.
we could briefly touch on sovereignty.
Yeah, it's
We,
knock
as
that out.
citizens of the United States of America, are a part of the sovereign body that is the United States of America. We are this government is a democratic republic. When you understand what a democratic republic is, it means that it is a representative government, meaning you elect a representative to to represent your ideology, if you will. I'm trying to come up with the best short term or shorthand terms for what I'm trying to relay here. These representatives go. Marjorie Taylor Greene, some people say she's a whack job. I agree. But there's a bunch of whack jobs out there. And they vote this woman into office all the time because that's her constituency, whack jobs. And this is a part of how that democratic republic works. This is how representative government works. I am a conspiracy theorist. My congressional person, whether it's a Marjorie Taylor Greene, etc., is also a conspiracy theorist. I am going to elect this person because they not only believe in, but also push the same conspiracy theories that I believe in. It's unfortunate, but this is the form of government that we have now. So anybody want to go in on that before we move into the race portion of this breakdown?
Hey, I'm about to bounce, man. I just want to let y'all know, man, I appreciate you, brothers, man. I love you all, man. I appreciate the listening audience or whatever, man. I appreciate everybody participating in the chat, man. And man, let's move this thing forward, man. If you have pride and you love that lineage, and man, join the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen.
You got some of your favorite people in the chat, Grim. My man Apollo Bay. He said Noble Drew Ali already brought us out of slavery, Grim. Not Noble Drew Ali himself said, right? If we're going to conjure his name, he said that the acts of 1865, the constitutional amendment, that is the 13th Amendment, brought us out of slavery. But this Moorish brother Apollo Bay says that it was Noble Drew Ali that brought us out of slavery. Before you leave, Brother Grim, can you speak to that?
Well, yes, I would love to speak to that before I leave, man. I wish I wouldn't have to, but I'm gonna have to, and I'm gonna speak to it in plain terms, man. Number one, we did a show on this stuff already, to where we showed the poisonous character of Noble Drew Ali's political standing, or political philosophy in regards to what happened to our people in the Civil War. So basically, in a nutshell, what was that? The Moorish leaders' historic message to America, I think it was, or was it the I can trying to remember the title of it. I haven't visited that stuff in a
The
while.
divine
But
warning.
the divine warning by the prophet for the nations, basically, Noble Drew Ali blamed all of the slaves for their status or their
Talk to him,
condition
bro.
as
Talk to him.
slaves. And we broke that thing down sentence by sentence by sentence by sentence all the way to the end. And basically, Noble Drew Ali said that it was us. He blamed us, people who were getting raped, beat, killed, robbed, maimed, having our children fed to sharks and killed and beat up on dirt roads.
That's right.
Noble Drew Ali blamed us for Jim Crowism.
That's right.
And a lot of the Moors come with with these and we used to be in that stuff.
That's
I
right.
was a sheik and all of that kind of stuff. And the bottom line is that when we came to the reality of it, and we used to make excuses for Noble Drew Ali and try to find. We used to say, oh well, we used to say stuff. I mean, is
But it was
crazy
out
as
of ignorance. Let me say
it was out of ignorance.
It was out of ignorance.
And
It
we used to
wasn't
say
intentional.
we
It was
used to
just
say
out of
stuff
pure
like
ignorance.
yeah, because black people was in the juke joints in Jim Crowism and in the Jim Crow era, and that brought about and we used to try to justify certain scenes of Noble Drew Ali when in actuality, man, I mean, the Europeans were the strongest people on the planet at the time, and they had juke joints and stuff like that. So
That's right.
Noble Drew Ali did not free us from slavery.
Fact.
Noble Drew Ali jumped on the ideas of several people before him. And I don't know if the brother was listening in the beginning. I pointed out some of the books, this whole thing about the Negro status and all of that stuff. That was way before Noble Drew Ali. Mr. Lewis was writing stuff about our history as Moors and the Negro status. I think 40 years before Noble Drew Ali was even born.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And people was talking about this whole Negro stuff during the American Revolution when people were saying, what shall we call ourselves? So, man, the bottom line is this, and I'm gonna say it because I kind of crack Ali up. All of these problems that we going through with these people pretending to be tribes and stuff like that, Noble Drew Ali took a whole bunch of messages and conjoined them into one from different places. So that created a lot of confusion. So a lot of this pretendian stuff, a lot of it have its roots in what so-called Moorish science, man. So, Noble Drew Ali with those little bitty scant writings basically created a conundrum, of misinformed people who think that they know what they talking about. And then on top of that, it's sprinkled just a little bit of truth when they talk about the Moor thing or the Moorish thing.
I would say some things, Grim, like the black thing. I just put up a comment from our sister Roz where she says our power lies in the name of American freedmen, not black. Right? There's certain things that we can pull and say this
but
is right and exact. But let me say real quick, all of that was preparing us for the now.
Right. I get it. Yeah, right. I get it. But we point out earlier that all of that stuff has its roots in other people who was teaching itself, who were teaching this stuff, who wasn't calling themselves a true and divine prophet, or trying to make people think that he was the reincarnation of Jesus or Muhammad. You follow what I'm saying? It was just plain truth coming from plain regular people, man. So, for the brother Bay who was in the chat that said that, man, we broke this stuff down. We all come out that school, but we broke this stuff down, man. A lot of the stuff that Noble Drew Ali taught I mean, is not good for our people, particularly that stuff that he said about us causing slavery and Jim Crow, and he blamed everything on
Everything.
us.
He
Yeah,
What
said
they
that was
everything that
wrong, y'all.
harms.
That was
yeah,
wrong, fam.
yeah, he
Yeah.
said that
All
we
my
do stuff.
Moorish brothers, Noble Drew Ali was wrong about that.
Right, right. And then, like I said, they had a lot of, they had truth sprinkled. That's what, like you say, that's what attracted us to us. But they like to use the term truth and falsehood strangely mixed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Noble Drew Ali's teachings was truth and falsehood strangely mixed because,
Mm-hmm.
he added the Moorish component, which in none of his writings, he don't talk anything about the Moorish Empire. Mr. Lewis talked more about the Moorish Empire than Noble Drew Ali ever did. The only thing that Noble Drew Ali pointed out about the Moorish Empire is writings that he plagiarized from a famous novelist named Washington Irving. Look it up. And when he's talking about the Alhambra and describing the grandeur of Morocco and Moorish Spain, all of that stuff is not the words of Drew Ali. We don't even have to touch his book, his religious book that he called the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple, or what is referred to as the Circle Seven. We could just go into those articles he said he wrote, and we'll find that 95% of those articles that he wrote was plagiarized from other sources, and the only info about Moors that he ever wrote about in Islam all was drafted or plagiarized rather from Washington Irving, an early Anglo-American writer who was writing about this stuff. So, man, it ain't really, other than him putting the stuff together and giving stuff to people, it may have done some good, man. But us here at Be The Power, we basically outgrew. Well, I'm gonna speak for myself. I basically outgrew the teachings of Noble Drew Ali, and I outgrew him with much pain because I tried to bring a lot of good to that organization and scholarship for that organization, but we were basically beating square pegs in round holes in regards to the Moors, when in actuality, where it was really at was this freedman knowledge. So when you ask somebody, what's their free national name, whatever that means, I'm an American. It's just plain and simple. So you gotta
Right.
force me to say, oh well, my teacher wrote this lesson, but
That's
what I
right.
really am is a Moorish American.
And we've been
When,
saying that for years, though,
right. And,
even
and then
before we
try to
left
go
the movement.
right. And then try to go back to the Moroccan Peace and Friendship Treaty that really don't even apply to us because a lot of them Moorish sultans didn't give a rat's ass about any of the people that was being brought from the southwestern
Mm-hmm.
shores of Africa. They just ain't want you to fuck with Moorish, excuse my language. They they just ain't want you to mess with Moorish or Moroccan. And we are not you descendants of Moroccans born in America. And Moroccan embassies and Moroccan groups have proven that to Moors time and time again with their shunning of those people and the shunning of their teachers and doctrines and things of that nature. Those people over there, they never embraced Drew Ali as a prophet. They don't give a damn about Drew Ali as a prophet. They don't give a damn about his holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple. They read the true and proper Quran delivered by Muhammad ibn Abdullah. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. You want to be a Moorish scientist, go read that. Don't read no mystical book written by Theosophists that Noble Drew Ali prepared. Man, why you do this to me, Nyhiem? you
It's all
know,
good, bro.
so
It's all
so
good. It's all
yeah,
good,
man. But
bro.
I'm gonna say this, man. Moorish science has no answer for our people in regards to this stuff because basically what it does is it takes people out of true work and make them And y'all, look, when these people come back with some kind of rebuttal, we ain't got
Mission
to
drift.
entertain this later. But
Right.
basically, man, what moral science do and pretendianism do is it takes people out of real work and doing real things in the real world to gravitate around a fictional status of being a Moorish American. Now, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We even talked about on this show the history of Moors and where it applies in the foundation of what became the United States of America. You follow what I'm saying? We talk about the that kind of stuff, and we can talk about it. But basically, what the Moors have done, or what Drew Ali has done, is created a false narrative of our connection specifically to the Moroccan Empire, and those people never legislated or did any type of diplomatic work on our behalf, other than us just creating a history trying to trace. But like they question there, say, "Oh, you are descendants of Moroccans born in America." No, we not. We was a group of people in capitalism, money, power. That shit don't have no boundaries. They
That's
wasn't
right.
just going. Moors ended up over here. Don't get me wrong. In the slave trade, Moors ended up over here. But all kinds of Muslims from different empires, people who were of indigenous faiths and different tribes, the only thing they wanted, they just cared about building their empire, building wealth. So whoever was sold to them, whether they was a Yoruba, whether they was a Nor, whether they was Igbo, whether they was whatever from
Hausa.
Mali, whether they was Mandingos, they just cared about those
Fulani.
Hausa,
people.
Timney.
Hausa,
Timney.
That's right.
they
Wolof.
just they
Wolof.
cared about the specializations of skills that those people had. So a lot of our people basically sold us out. They say, "Hey, we need these people." Some of our people went caught them and say, "Hey," just like with the people who ended up in the Gullah Geechee area. These sisters knew how to cultivate rice, which is a very valuable crop to what? To feed people and to stretch meals when meat is not readily accessible. So they went got sisters that what? Knew how to grow rice. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna shut up. Even this whole connection with this Moroccan peace and friendship treaty, when you read it, you'll see that they did not care about any other of the slaves that was on, and not even caring about stopping the trade in general. They just ain't want you to fuck with Moroccans.
That's right. Yo,
Let me say this real quick, Nyhiem.
okay, go ahead, bro.
The root of the Moroccan Peace and Friendship Treaty had absolutely nothing to do with the Moors giving the Europeans charters because to come over here and all of that stuff. That's garbage. Basically, this is research. You can research it. That the sultans over there was having a famine, and over here they were not. So they were looking for the importation of grain and corn and all of that type of stuff. So it was all everything. At the end of the day, man, this shit all comes down to dollar bill, you know. And those
That's right.
Moroccans needed the goods that was coming out of the United States. It ain't had nothing to do with no Moors really owning America and all of that kind of crap, you know.
That's right.
I'm good.
That's right. That's right. So I want to, Ali, you wanted to say something?
No, go ahead.
I want to get into the last leg of this thing, and we're going to open it up. We were on tonight, and, you know, we wanted to lay out nationality, political status, race, and lineage. And we've covered everything except race. We've covered, let me see. Let me see if I have this image. I want to pull I'll pull this image up. Let me see if I have it. Let me see. I want to get into the race portion of, shout out to Freedmen, Grim Freedman, aka the urban mystic. He is one of the co-founders of Be The Power and the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. Just because y'all don't see him on here often, that don't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything at all. I want to pull this picture up. Oh, I got it right there. I didn't know if I had it on my computer. I want to get into the final leg of the discussion, and then we can open it up. If anybody wants to jump on, they want to question us, all of this relates to tonight's subject. It all relates to reparations, right?
That remind me of my afro, man.
Huh? That's right. When we first started this thing, Josh had to pop in afro. What was my man name from the Boondocks?
Huey.
Huey, that's right. And they were calling you Huey in the chat as well. So there's a reason I created this image years ago. The black and white people myth. Are you black? Are they white? I remember I was downtown Athens, Georgia, and I was having a discussion with somebody. We were having this discussion about black and white. And this white guy just happened to walk up as we were having this discussion. He stood there for a minute. He said, "Hey, man, you're right." He had on a white t-shirt. He said, "Look at my white t-shirt." He said, "You could clearly see that it's not the same as my skin tone. Nobody's black, man. Nobody's white, man." And he just walked off. And whoever I was talking to, I cannot remember who I was talking to. I said, "See?" I said, "See? You've never seen a person look like this. You look at me and Ali, our pictures are up on the screen. We are brown, right? You look at my brother Josh, he has a light brown skin, right? We come in various shades of brown. Nobody is actually black. Nobody's actually black. Like nobody is actually white. Nobody is actually white, family. These are racial constructs. Yeah, go ahead, Brother Ali.
No, you're right. I'm just saying that's a fact. These are racial constructions created by Europeans, right? Even like with some of the dialogues that we've been having with the pretendians lately, the way I approach it is when they say that there were black native tribes in the Americas pre-Columbus, my immediate response is there were no such thing as black native tribes pre-Columbus. You can't do that, right? The only way you prove that kind of point is by primary source. So my thing to them is always, if you think there were black / Negro native tribes in this country in this land pre-Columbus, then you must provide some primary text from those people where they self-identify as quote unquote blacks or Negroes. Now the problem is it's going to be two things. There's a linguistic problem, and I'm going to show you. Black is an English Germanic construction.
That's right.
So we know that they didn't use that BLACK because it's not their language.
That's
Negro
right.
is of a Latin construction.
That's right.
So we know that that's not what they use. So then you would have to go into the actual language of the people, and you would have to actually understand it and then find where they would have self-identified as black or Negro, something equivalent within their own language. And nobody's ever going to be able to do anything like that. So no, there's no such thing as a black or Negro native pre-Columbus. Those names just like the name America, just like the name Indian, just like the names, the descriptions indigenous and aboriginal. All of those terminologies came from Europeans. Period, point blank.
That's right. That's right. So I pulled these pictures up for a reason. I wanted to give a visual. Let me pull it back up. I wanted to give a visual, right? That nobody is black and nobody is white. Nobody. Nobody looks like this on the planet. Nobody's skin tone looks like this. So we begin to understand that race is a construct. I have a book here called White by Law. I don't know if y'all can see that. Let me stop sharing. Stop screen. I don't know if y'all can see that. White by Law, Ian Haney Lopez, right? So I'm gonna read from this in a few minutes. Race is something that was constructed by several early racists, Blumenbach being one of them. Blumenbach actually is cited in early U.S. Supreme Court law. They cite him in justifying race. And what they're justifying really is the hierarchy that they establish, which puts white at the top and black at the bottom. But
real quick, Nyhiem, Blumenbach later, if you read, he kind of resented the fact how his information was being used to uphold that hierarchy or being used to make a hierarchy. You know, it was actually other people later that came after Blumenbach that reinforced and tried to even make his take what he made and make it more pseudo to back up the notion that there was a superiority between of the white race. So I just wanted to add that little tidbit. If anybody wants to go and look it up, you know, I don't have the names in front of me, but it's some others. They took Blumenbach had, and they just decided they were gonna run with it even further. So it's, I mean, how they craft this thing as far as creating whiteness and creating white superiority in the country and using science, or rather pseudoscience, to back it up. It just speaks to what Brother Nyhiem is saying to the fullest.
Let me ask you a question, Nyhiem. Do you see this person, Negro Science? Because I don't see him.
I'm responding to him right now.
I don't see him. I don't know what link you.
Well, he was in the back, or somebody was in the back, but he said he was in the back, and I guess he's saying we're scared. He doesn't know. He obviously doesn't know who we are. Okay, so
just tell him to come on back up. Put the link back in.
Come back in. I'm gonna put the link
Science,
back in.
just
Negro Science, come back in.
And Apollo Bay or whatever, just come.
And Apollo Bay and everybody else, y'all come on
for a minute.
We're gonna talk about it. So I wanna go to Federal Directive 15, and we're gonna touch on some things. Like, we gotta understand this thing in context. Why is it no? Stop share. And we brought this stuff up before. We've been saying this stuff on Be The Power for a long time now, family. For a long time. So this is the Office of Management and Budgets, OMB Directive number 15. It's a federal directive, but it's on the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website. I've never understood why it was on. I've never looked it up. But anyway, let's read. This was adopted on May 12, 1977. It says, this directive provides standard classifications for record keeping, collection, and presentation of data on race and ethnicity in federal program administrative reporting and statistical activities. Basically, what it's saying is, when you fill out a job application, it'll ask you, what is your race? It'll ask you to identify Negro, Black, Hispanic, Black non-Hispanic, white Hispanic, or white non-Hispanic, Asian or Pacific Islander, and or American Indian. That's what this thing does. It's Blumenbach's and what was the other guy? There was a bunch of them guys back in the days. It's their racial classifications remixed, basically, in today's modern times, starting in 1977. You wanted to say something, Ali?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. These are social constructions created by Europeans, and one of the important pieces, if you look at it, where it talks about these classifications not being used as some kind of criteria for federal, for some kind of a federal benefits. Read that real quick because I can't see it that good.
Oh, my bad. I was reading the back channel. It says these classifications should not be interpreted as being scientific or anthropological in nature. Again, we read this stuff on this channel several times. These classifications should not be interpreted as being scientific or anthropological in nature, nor should they be viewed as detriments of
determinants.
Determinants. Why did I say detriments? I've read this 1,000 times. Determinants of eligibility for participation in any federal program. That's important. Wow. Go ahead, Ali. Get into that, bro.
Well, for me, that was something that kind of raised a concern, and we kind of had a conversation about it in the back channels as we raised this issue, where it says that it should not be viewed as, these racial classifications should not be viewed as determinants of eligibility for participation in any federal program. So I thought that was a very interesting point, particularly for those of us who consider ourselves reparationists. So we can stop there because I know we got people who wanna speak.
Yeah, they want to challenge us, but they have to wait a few minutes because we're gonna get through what we're trying to get through. So let me stop sharing that, right? Matter of fact, no, let me not stop sharing that. Let's keep that up. I want to highlight what it says for black in these racial classifications. It says a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. This is important. When you understand, and we pull up this paper, let me get the title right. When diversity, I'll put it in the live chat as well. When diversity for diversity's sake is not enough, should black immigrants receive the benefit of affirmative action at the detriment of native blacks, meaning us, the freedmen? Right? Let me put this in the live chat. Let's put this in the live chat before we move on. It's the reason why we have to bring that up, because when you have a black classification that says a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa, the status of freedmen then illumes itself. Terms like ADOS becomes obsolete. And while we understand terms like FBA, Foundational Black American, and we've given our own breakdown and even approval of that term to some degree, that black part still hard to grapple with, right? Because you may have some people that may call themselves foundational in this country that are not foundational in this country, but they came in the 20s or the 30s. They may say that they are foundational, but they're not. Foundational in our opinion, and from our, no, not opinion, from our perspective, is one who was here when this country ratified its constitution, the Constitution for the United States of America. That's what foundational means to us. And we've been clear on that for years. There's ambiguity here. Black, It doesn't speak to freedmen. That's why the status, which is still viable today, is so important, family. The status of freedmen supersedes everything else. You cannot get around it. You can't go over it. You can't go under it. You can't tunnel your way underneath this freedman thing at all. Black, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. This means a person that just came over here yesterday, as Narc and in Cobra proposes, should be eligible for reparations. But it says right here, these classifications.
Let's get into it right here.
Let's get into it. These classifications, y'all know when I get hype, I start getting tongue-tied, excuse me. These classifications should not be interpreted as being scientific or anthropological in nature. They're not
hold on. Here's the key part right here. Keep going.
They're not using science or anthropology. I just wanted to get that out. What are they using then? The same thing that Justice Tani, Justice Tani used in his judicial dictum for the opinion and the ultimate ruling of the Dred Scott case. Public opinion. That's all they're using here. Because if you're not going to use science and you're not going to use anthropology to determine race, what are you going to use? This act, this federal directive, relies not only on Justice Tani's ruling, it also relies on Blumenbach's racial classifications. I'm going to get into that in a few minutes. Let me read this and I want my bros to jump in. Nor should they be viewed as determinants of eligibility for participation in any federal program. Reparations will be a federal program. It always has been and always will be. A federal program. Period. You cannot get around that, family.
That's important.
That's very
as it relates
important.
to the NARC and in Cobra criteria of who should be eligible. That's a very important point.
That's right. So when you're looking at black, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa, this gives NARC and in Cobra the fodder to say, I don't care if you came over here last week. You deserve reparations, because their claim isn't against the United States government per se. It's against global white supremacy, as they call it.
Stupid. That's stupid.
Stupid, of course. But
that's stupid.
If they want not global white supremacy to pay, obviously, they just want America to pay to the people that came over here last week. This doesn't make any sense. This is why NARC and in Cobra have disqualified themselves from the conversation. One more point I want to touch on before I pass it over to my brothers. Here, white, it says, a person having origins of any of the original peoples of Europe, North Africa, or the Middle East. Well, what is called white today originates only in Europe. The people that they speak of in North Africa, well, these are people that migrated there. When you start looking into the history of why Middle Eastern people, Arabians, etc., get this term white, things become a little more clearer to you. And I'm going to read a little bit of that after my brothers go in on that. Now, I want to pull this up before y'all go in. Let me pull this up. We teaching here tonight, and I'm hoping that the family references, I'm hoping, because, you know, they ignore us because, you know, people just want to be out front in everything as opposed to just, you know, just simply getting it right. That's all we care about. We've never tried to elevate ourselves. We've always tried to elevate the information, always, and we've done that, actually. So let's go to this. I touched on this on a video over 10 years ago, family. 10 years ago. Mustafa Hefni. I am not a white man, but the U.S. government is forcing me to be one by Mustafa Hefni. Let's give a brief on his case. The SBA, the Small Business Administration, were giving out loans to freedmen specifically in 1996. This man tried to apply for one of those loans. They told this man literally, you cannot just walk in from Africa claiming to be black. Apollo Bay, I see you on. I hope you are listening, because we came out this movement that you're in, and nothing that you say is going to be able to refute these facts. Whatever you think you're going to drop as a bomb will be merely a firecracker that we played with when we were children because they weren't dangerous at all. Well, I don't want to say at all. They could put a little whelp on your hand if you ain't handled them correctly. But some of us were brave enough to light firecrackers and actually hold them in our hands. But anyway, Mustafa Hefni had to fight because, as I just read, North African is one of the portions of the definition of whiteness. It's one of them. And Egypt, according to the United States of America, is where? In North Africa. So you could be as dark as me and come to the United States from Egypt. They are going to classify you as a white man, showing just how ambiguous race is and why it can never be used in a reparations claim. That's my gripe against the term foundational Black Americans. And we invite our brother Tariq Nasheed to come on and have this discussion, because we don't have no gripes with that brother at all. We don't have no gripes with that brother. We disagree with some of what he presents, but we don't have no gripes with him. We're not
And as
enemies.
far as FBA, I mean, I understand the usage
That's
of the
right.
term. I think we've even used the term before.
We've
And
used it.
and I don't have an issue with the usage of the term, connotatively.
That's
I
right.
think what we're trying to say is when we're trying to get redress and we're trying to get policy, we need to root our claims in the terms that's already on the records and that's already in usage, and root a term that's
There you go.
in something dealing with the status of our people that has been unchanged since we were made freedmen.
That's
Since
right.
we received that status. That's the difference we're trying to make, is other names or other other usage, common usages of words that people use to refer to us as a group. Maybe some type of connotative name that people can arbitrarily give their own definition or interpretation of, but that's not the case with Freedmen. Freedmen is actually a status, and it's not, people, you want to use those names, those other names, fine. But when it comes down to like, what do we need? Like when we're trying to get remedy from the government, and you're trying to root a reparations claim, you need to root yourself in the claim, in the superior, and to put your, like Brother Logic always says, we don't want to just make any old move. We want to make the best move. We don't want to make a move that's going to be, not well thought out and end up getting us rebuffed every time. We trying to figure out why we, you got to use the proper, you got to make the proper claim and using the status of freedman. But go ahead, bro.
All right. So I want to get to this. This is coming from the book White by Law. I wanted to get into Theodore W. Allen's book, The Invention of the White Race, as well tonight, but we don't have to. But this, another crucial book, White by Law, Ian Haney Lopez. Get you a copy of it, right? Because we see what people are. Stoke the Moor says, so what do y'all make of Trinidad's history recording us as Moors? We don't care about that, fam. We just don't. It's not important. It's not important. So let me read from page 36, and I'm going to skip around a little bit so I could get to the point. All right. So it says, some immigrant groups, for example, the Chinese, were initially characterized as Black. suggesting that for some, attempting to naturalize a quote-unquote white person was the more difficult route. According to Ronald Takaki, the Chinese migrants, they weren't forced over here, the Chinese migrants found that racial qualities previously assigned to blacks quickly became Chinese characteristics. White workers referred to the Chinese as Nagars. The court agreed with the defendant. I'm skipping around some y'all that the Chinese, because I'm for time, that the Chinese witness was barred from testifying by the 1850 statute, reasoning that Indians originally migrated from Asia. And so all Asians were conversely also Indian. And that at any rate, black was a generic term encompassing all non-whites and thus included Chinese persons. That's for the pretendians that's out there trying to use this this idea that because Europeans called Indians Negroes or blacks, that it means something. No, they also called Chinese the same thing. So let me see. It says 3/4 of a century later and across the country, Mississippi Supreme Court reached a similar decision, holding in 1925 that segregation laws targeting the colored race, quote unquote, barred children of Chinese descent from attending schools for white children, given their social and legal Negroization. Go back to status. We broke that down earlier. May well have been easier for the Chinese and other immigrants to argue their qualifications for the citizenship as black rather than as white.
That's powerful.
That's powerful. Like we get into the scholarship.
But see,
all my bros to go in, and then we're gonna bring Apollo Bayo.
Yeah, let's bring him on because we running up on 3 hours.
We running up on okay. Apollo,
just like when it was brought up on Twitter, you got the pretendians trying to argue that Indians are the original quote unquote nigger. Like the dude brought up from the Oxford Dictionary that nigger was used for American Indians by Europeans. And it was almost like he was using it as a aha, got you. We the original, because he thinks he's an Indian, so he's like, we the original niggers. You see what I'm saying? And I'm like, this is bad. We to the point where people are fighting over who the original nigger is. You see what I'm saying? This is real stupid. And so what Josh was able to do, what I did it, but Josh, I think, did a better job at it, was show that this terminology, nigger, Niger, Negro, these terms were used by Europeans for a lot of different people. They were used for Irish people. They called the Irish niggers. They used it on Italians. They used it on Middle Easterners. They call them sand niggers. They use it on Asians, the Chinese. They call them niggers. That doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of foolishness. You see what I'm saying? But in any case, it just goes to the point that none of that means anything, and it was used for a bunch of people. It proves nothing.
Wait, before you come on, Apollo Bay, I want to pull this up. Stoke the Moore said freedmen means you descend from slaves. Like,
yep.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
That's exactly
now let's move
what
on. Let's
if you're
move
a
on.
Moor, wait, Ali. If he's a Moor, then Noble Drew Ali said the same exact thing about us being of slave descent because he spoke about us being enslaved. What's wrong with these people? I don't know.
And you know, in this country, what are you saying? When you say we descend from slaves, is that supposed to be some type of pejorative? Because we don't take it as that. We take it as we came from the people who was descendants of, like Ali said, the people that was kicked off the continent of Africa. We descend from the people who endured the the transportation across the Atlantic Ocean. We descend from the people who endure and survive the most brutal, inhumane system of human treatment over a sustained period of time that you can find on record. We descend from the people who fought their way out of that situation. 200,000 troops were in the Union Army and whooped the Confederates. And so we
Come on,
did
bro.
not we did not get the term freedmen just because we were slaves. We got the term freedmen because we whooped the slave masters.
Come on.
Talk to him.
That's right.
Josh. Talk
And we
to him,
got
bro.
our freedom. And
Talk
then
to
They
him.
don't know.
our
Josh,
ancestors.
they don't know about the
Yeah.
the Knights of Liberty, man. They don't.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
They don't know about
You don't get
all
freedmen
that.
just because you curling and you curling up in the ball crying and you just no. We got freedom because we survived and because we fought and we whooped behind and we
That's right.
won.
Come on.
So that's why. And President Abraham Lincoln said, "What is the quote? You can go look it up right now on. I can't
He
remember
says-
if
he
it was
says,
not for the black
paraphrasing,
freedmen,
that's right.
the war against the South surely would not have been won."
Facts.
You can go and find that. You can go. That's a direct quote from Abraham Lincoln. So I just want to leave that there. And
That's
I
right.
don't know if we want to. You ready to get into?
Please,
Yeah,
man, because we're going on 3 hours, yo. I
Yeah.
gotta
Come
get out
on.
of
All
here.
right. Apollo Bay. All right. Unmute yourself, brother. Let me see if I can unmute you. All right. So you said you could drop a bomb that can refute all of us. So now's your chance, brother. All right. So you said you could drop a bomb. You're gonna have to mute out your background though, because I can hear the echo. Apollo Bay. You're gonna have to mute out your background though, because I can hear the echo. Apollo Bay.
Come on, brother. Come on.
Can you hear me
Apollo
now?
Bay, you said we was running, and now you're not ready. What's up?
Can-
What's
Yeah,
going on?
we can hear you,
Can you
brother.
hear
What's
me?
on up? Yeah, we can
Yeah.
hear you.
All right. First of all, I'd like to, say what's up to everybody on the panel.
Peace.
No disrespect
Peace.
from, the stance that I'm taking from the stance you taking. Second of all, Ali, before I had went back and forth with you about being stateless, that was on that another show that you had did. I wanted to
Yes.
know that on the stateless thing, how's the freedmen how are they not stateless? That's the first thing. Second to Lord Abba, you said that I couldn't drop a firecracker. So I'm gonna say that if I can't prove what I'm saying, then I'll be a freedman. But if I could prove what I'm saying, then you gotta come back to the more sense too.
All right, hold on. What's a freedman, brother?
Huh?
Define freedman, because I know what a Moor is, because I've wrote a lot of the scholarship of this Moorish movement for the past 10 years. So I know exactly what a Moor is. But now you have to tell me what a freedman is. An American freedman specifically.
I only could go off of the definitions that whatever you say you is.
No.
American freedman. If that's what you say you are, I'm going off the definition you say you are.
Brother, if you're gonna say that because I'm not ever not claiming that I'm a Moor. I'm
It's
still a
hard for
Moor.
me to hear you.
Oh, that's on you, brother. Everybody else hears me fine. I'm still a Moor though. I'm still a Moor. I'm still a Moor.
He's getting a crazy delay.
Come on, somebody else come up in here. Hey, Stoke the Moor, where you at, man? Stoke the Moor, where you at?
Yeah, probably. I think you got a real crazy delay or something.
I'm still trying to show that my information.
Yeah, probably. I think.
All right, so we're trying to get you to do that, and I mean,
If you mind, let me answer his first question, right? He said, how are the freedmen not stateless? A stateless person is a person who has no nationality, right? Freedmen have the nationality of the United States of America. The demonym is American. That's what they are. They're American citizens. They've been, let me tell you something. The people that you're calling Moors, who we say are American freedmen since 1865, our ancestors, those people were citizens from the very beginning, right? Once you understand what citizenship is based on, is rooted in allegiance. Now, our people, meaning our particular tribe of people, those people who were forced into the institution of Negro chattel slavery, some of them were freemen, etc. Those people in this country had allegiance to this country from day one. They were members of the society from the colonial period. I just, as a matter of fact, yesterday posted about a Moor, right, who was of African and Portuguese descent by the name of Matthias de Souza, who served in the Legislative Assembly in Maryland. He's known as the first black Marylander in 1642. So that just goes to show that our people, the ones that you're calling Moors, the one we call freedmen at this point, were members of this society since the colonial period, coming into the advent of the United States, from people like Crispus Attucks to Prince Hall, you name it, on up to the Civil War. Our people have shown and proven allegiance to this country, which is the crux of citizenship. Look it up. Even in the Dred Scott case of 1856, 7, whatever year it was, one of the things that Justice Taney admitted was that these people that he was saying couldn't be citizens definitely owed allegiance to this country. Now, whether the allegiance was by choice or by force, our people had allegiance to this country and did not have any allegiance to any other sovereignty. We were members of this particular society. Our people helped to ratify the Articles of, not the Articles of Confederation, the United States Constitution. No, the Articles of Confederation.
It was the Articles of Confederation
and the United States Constitution.
That's right.
Were involved in both of in the process of ratifying both of those things. That's actually in the Dred Scott case. Moors don't really read the Dred Scott case. They only look for what Taney said because you're only interested in confirmation bias, right? Because you want to confirm your bias against other people within your group because they don't identify as Moors. And so because they don't identify as Moors, you're looking for reasons to put them down. So you latch on to the racist rhetoric of people like Justice Taney. That's what Moors do.
That's right.
You don't actually read the Dred Scott case. So if you read it, you would know that there were certain things in there that proves the point that we're making. Our people were citizens of this country from day one, even the slaves, because their allegiance to this country was forced, and allegiance is the crux of citizenship. So that's the answer to your question. They never lost their citizenship. And as a matter of fact, when it comes to the 14th Amendment that you all like to say made black people citizens, no, it didn't. It made white people citizens.
That's
you know
right.
why? Because the white people who left the Union to join another political body called the Confederate States of America, they are the ones who gave up their citizenship and allegiance to the United States.
That's
the
right.
14th Amendment is what brought them back into the Union. Our people never relinquished our allegiance to this Union. Never, not once.
That's right.
So if you want to question someone's statelessness, question the Confederates. Question the Confederates. Question the statelessness of Puerto Ricans. Question the statelessness of Mexicans or any other immigrant group, not the people who are foundational to this body politic. I don't understand what this thing is that Moors have with questioning the political status of their own people, but yet you won't question anybody else's. You can go ahead.
All right, Apollo Bay, we gonna try to hear you, but you know, we're waiting.
You still there, Apollo?
All right, man. Look,
Hold on, I think he on mute or something. Oh, there.
yeah, he got off here. Look, we're gonna close this thing out, family. I'm gonna pull up one more thing so we could get up out of here. We've made our point tonight about status, et cetera, et cetera. I wanna pull some things up real quick, and we may cut these parts out so that people can get an understanding. All right, so let's pull up this term libertine. When you go to the etymological dictionary, you get the term libertine, right? And all right, let's put us to the side. Libertine says a freedman, right? So this term libertine historically means a freedman, an emancipated slave, from Latin libertinus, condition of a freedman. The condition. Remember, we're talking, well, excuse me, earlier we were talking about status. The condition of a freedman, member of a class of freedmen, from libertus, one's freedman, emancipated person, from liber, meaning free. See, liberal. The true liberals in the United States of America are people that represented freedom, liberty. That's what you get when you break this thing down. So, you know what? Let's pull up liberal real quick. Say this is from the etymological dictionary online. It says liberal, nobly born, noble, free, from late 14th century, as selfless, magnanimous, admirable, in a bad sense, extravagant, unrestrained. From liberal, befitting, free people, noble, generous, willing, zealous, everything that describes American freedmen in historical context. And directly from Latin, liberalis, noble, gracious, munificent, generous, literally, of freedom, pertaining to or befitting a free person, from liber, free, unrestricted, unimpeded, unbridled, unchecked. And we know licentious is one that comes later. Licentious basically means dumb, which is what they tried to say of us throughout history. So let's get into our Bibles. Something is wrong with my chair. It keeps falling down. Excuse me, family. So let's get into what the Bible has here, right? On this freedman thing. This is Acts 6:9. And wherever you see the term libertine in the Bible, in modern day translations and transliterations, you're going to see the term freedman. So right here in the Berean literal Bible, it says of Acts 6:9, but certain of those from the synagogue called freedmen, including Cyrenians and Alexandrians and those from Cilicia and Asia, arose disputing with Stephen. So there's this term in our Bibles. And in the normal King James Version, we see that it says, then there arose certain of the synagogue, which is called the synagogue of the libertines. Doesn't say freedmen. So we have already showed you that in the etymological dictionary, libertine just means freedman, right? So let's go to the New King James Version. In the New King James Version, then there arose some from what is called the synagogue of the freedmen. the New American Standard Bible. But some men from what was called the Synagogue of the Freedmen, including both Cyrenians and etc. Yeah, y'all see where we're going with this thing. I want to pull up one more resource and then we can start winding this thing down because y'all know how we do. We just the facts over here, family. We're proving that this Freedman thing is the most powerful status that we have, and nothing else is even a close second. Nothing else. So let's blow this up some. So this is International Standard Bible Encyclopedia Online. Let's get into some of this. Libertines. These were among Stephen's opponents, excuse me. There arose certain of them that were of the synagogue, called the Synagogue of the Libertines, and of the Cyrenians, and of the Alexandrians. All right. So we can get into some of these breakdowns, but we're gonna, noble takes the place of liberal in certain versions of the Bible. We're not going to get into that part. Synagogue of the Libertines. How many synagogues are denoted? The answer may aid in the interpretation of libertines. The words may be read as denoting one synagogue, Calvin. However, the number of worshipers would be extremely large. It's basically giving you the scholastic breakdown of, remember we showed earlier, the Roman freedmen, right? Because I don't want nobody to say, oh, y'all coming out the Bible. The Bible is not a historical source. The Bible is a historical source. It's just twisted to fit their own narrative. The Bible has some historicity in it, and that's just the fact. So this is the part that we want to really flesh out. The interpretation of libertines, right? It says they are quote unquote freedmen. This is an ancient status. This isn't something that the United States of America made up. This isn't something that the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen or Be The Power made up. It is an ancient status. It says they are quote unquote freedmen, liberated slaves, or their descendants, meaning that their descendants always held this title of freedmen, this status, to be specific. Same thing with us. That's why we read from the bloody shirt.
Read that first sentence one more time. They are freedmen, liberated slaves, or their descendants.
Or their descendants. Or their descendants. It says the Greek equivalent, whatever. However, the Roman designation would be common all over the empire. In what sense were they freedmen? Various answers are given. They were freedmen from Jewish servitude, and they quote someone named Lightfoot. They were Italian freedmen who had become proselytes. And, the references are here. See in parentheses, the parenthetical points to whatever reference that will be at the bottom of the page on this particular website. They were the freedmen of the Romans, Chrysostom, the descendants of Jewish freedmen. And that term, Chrysostom, that kind of sticks out to me because there's an article that PBS did about the Moors and Jesus some years back called Sigillium Secretum, but we won't get into that at the moment. That just hit me. The descendants of Jewish freedmen at Rome who have been expelled by Tiberius, right? We're showing that this is a status, regardless of the ethnicity of the people. But if people need ethnicity to feel a little bit more safer, let's scroll down to definition 2. They are an African community. There were 2 synagogues, one of which was Asiatic, and the other were men from 2 African towns, Cyrene and Alexandria, which is why I placed emphasis earlier when I was reading the initial paragraph when it said Cyrenians. Therefore, the libertines must have been African also, all forming an African synagogue. Like this is a status, family. It is without shadow of a doubt, unequivocally, the superior claim. And I know we have many names that we use and we want to hold on to because, you know, it's a part of the branding that we've been used to, et cetera, et cetera. But again, we came up with the organization name, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, while we were still supporting the hashtag group. This isn't no splinter or no carve out, and we are not the wayward children of any group anywhere besides groups that date back to the early or maybe mid 1800s and early 1900s. If you want to say that, then sure. We are the descendants of those freedmen, making us the freedmen. Brother Ali, Brother Josh, please go in on that.
Yeah, Ali, I was just saying I want you to talk about the continuity of the freedman status and how it's transferred to today's freedmen. I think you touched on that earlier, but I
We
think this
touched on
piece
it
right here
earlier.
kind of
Yeah.
solidifies that.
Well, I'll tell you what people can do, and this is what I suggested on Twitter, was that people go to our frequently asked questions section where they can read the questionnaire that we put together, the little short questionnaire. It's only 20 questions. And in that, it's explained exactly how this particular status is transferred from generation to generation. In short, the Latin term would be per sanguinum, meaning by blood. By blood, right? So this status is an inherited status. It's an inherited status because just like with the piece Brother Nyhiem was just reading, it says that they're freedmen, the libertines were freedmen or their descendants.
That's
so
right.
Obviously, this is a status that is transferred by blood.
That's right. That's right. Which is why we invoke the freedman status today. And in invoking the freedman status, all remedy comes to us. I wanted to get into some other things tonight. We didn't have time. We kind of talked to the people tonight. And maybe in another live stream we'll do that. Or maybe we'll go live on one of the Twitter spaces to get a little bit deeper. I wanted to get into posse comitatus tonight. I wanted to get into the compromise of 1877 tonight. We keep getting spammed by some type of porn people in our.
Yeah, how do you block that?
I just blocked them.
Thank you.
You know, I wanted to get into that tonight because I wanted to show people that not only does this Freedman thing hold the most weight, that's a wrong that's a wrong expression. This Freedman thing holds the only weight, but the Black South strategy that we're pushing, when you start to break down posse comitatus, and before that, the compromise of 1877. See, the compromise was an unwritten thing. The compromise of 1877, where there was a virtual tie between Rutherford B. Hayes and Tilden for the candidacy of president of these United States. It was a tie. And Tilden decided, I'll let you be president, just remove the protections of the freedmen in the South. Well, Tilden agreed. I mean, Rutherford B. Hayes agreed with that. And that's exactly what they did. And in removing those protections from the South, the Ku Klux Klan, the White League, and all forms of white supremacy were able to commit some of the most atrocious atrocities among the freedmen among other human beings in recorded history. I wanted to get into that tonight, but we might do a Twitter space tomorrow. So for those of you who are on Twitter, make sure y'all look out for that, because we might have to break that down. You know, we might have to break that down to show people how everything that we are promoting over here on Be The Power and the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is for collective power, for collective uplift. It's not for our personal gratification. We're not trying to be the next cult leaders. You should already see that and know that. I think some of you are. We won't call no names, but I think that. I believe that wholeheartedly. That's why y'all don't want to rock with this thing full-throatedly. This is our livelihoods at stake.
Facts.
Our progeny, right? We spoke about lineage earlier. Our progeny's livelihood is at stake. They are going to be living in a country that they cannot afford to live in. They may be our progeny, those who sleep under tents and bridges, not just in California or New York, but in Georgia and Mississippi and South Carolina, etc., etc. We can change that, family. We can change that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Ali. I'm about to get into a zone. I'm trying to be cool and not call certain people out, but
yeah, please
go ahead,
don't.
bro.
We ain't got to do all that.
I'm chilling. I'm chilling.
Yeah, so now we at 3 hours and 20 minutes. You know, I think we made the point already in terms of what the original intent was and for doing this program. I think we made that point. I hope that what we've presented helped some people. I see that one brother is saying that he's not a freedman because he's not a descendant of Africans who were enslaved in America. Well, listen, if that's not your story, if that's not the story of your family, so be it. You know, if you're Trinidadian, then you should go to a Trinidadian space and speak on speak to the Trinidadians about, you know, being a Trinidadian American or whatever the case is. But your thing is, if you're Trinidadian, you're really a Trinidadian American. You're not really a Moorish American. You're a Trinidadian American. That's what you are, and you should proclaim that. You should be proud of that, right? Don't cast that aside. You know, if you're Trinidadian, you're a Trinidadian American. Claim that. Don't claim no Moorish American. That's not something you could actually prove anyway. You're a Trinidadian American. Be proud of that, and be proud of that little country that you come from, man. Claim that. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry about us and what we're talking about as American freedmen. You're a Trinidadian American. Deal with that stuff.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I just want to say, hey, just like Ali said, if you come from another country, you should be proud you're from that other country. However, on top of that, you know, you should be looking not to say let me take a page out of JFK, his book, right? Ask not what the freedmen can do for you, but ask what can you do for the freedmen? Because it was the freedmen who fought, bled, and died, you know, to make a huge overhaul in the American political system, to change laws, to get laws, to give the juice, to get laws passed, to allow the desegregation of the American immigration policy as a part of the desegregation of, you know, to end discrimination across the board, or to curb discrimination across the board. That's the reason why. Because guess what? When Jim Crow was at its highest, when we was getting burnt and castrated after swinging on trees, from trying to cast a ballot or try to start a business, when we were just getting women was getting raped and you get no justice. You whistle at a white woman, and you wind up in a creek somewhere. You didn't see huge amounts of people trying to come to America. But guess what? You didn't see freedmen run into other countries either.
That's right.
So ask not what you can do, what the freedmen can do for you, but ask what can you do for the freedmen. So if you hear, it shouldn't be about how can I align with you so I can try to make everybody think I'm just like you and I'm old what you're old so I can get a benefit. It should be how can we work together in terms of how can I help you get what you need.
Wait, Josh,
Hmm?
look what the brother said. I have no political power in Trinidad. I pay taxes in America. I have an American passport and was raised in America.
That's right. You go ahead.
I told the brother, right, because we're speaking about status and how that's passed on to one's progeny, to one's lineage. If your parents or grandparents came over here as immigrants, your status, regardless if you were born here, is still an immigrant. Still immigrant.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't matter.
and your status as far as nationality is American, but what we're talking about is, see, like the whole purpose of this is we're owed a debt. America owes us a debt. Okay, the debt is owed to freedmen. It's not owed to everybody else
Trinidadian Americans.
just because you're quote unquote black, and that's fine. That's fine. You shouldn't feel like you're getting deprived of something because you're not owed a debt. Because guess what? You wouldn't feel deprived if your family had to pay all the costs in America. If your family had to deal with, the horrors that our families had to deal with, and deal with the community, like widespread community dilapidation and hopelessness, and getting hit with the crack epidemic, getting hit with everything you can imagine. You wouldn't trade that. And just keep in mind the justice that we're looking for, we're not even really getting. We're not. It's like there's no scenario where we really could get full justice. We only can get some type of semblance of justice, because if it were to be full justice, we know that I don't even think there is a financial or economic capacity to do that, or will to do that, or I don't even know what full justice will look like outside of that. When you want to calculate it, we've seen it calculated, and it's more money. It's like 20, 30 times more money than the entire wealth of the whole planet combined. So we don't we're not even talking about full justice. We just talking about getting some justice. So yeah, if you don't descend from those people, if you're still an American, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with being of Trinidadian descent, and you're still American. You still can do, if you get born in America, you got American citizenship rights. All that's good. But what we're talking about is the people whose families are owed a debt, and that debt is what we're fighting to get paid. And what we're saying is, if you are in this space around us, then you need to be aiding and assisting, asking how can I help y'all get justice over here. Because if we were in moving to that country, and if you were dealing with being owed a debt by a larger population of society who enslaved your people and then denied them opportunity for generations and generational plunder, and we were in the country, we came over to that country in a large number. Hey, we trying to align. Who are we gonna side with? We gonna side with the white person over there? We gonna side with the oppressive society? Or are we gonna decide? Are we gonna side with the people who we have some commonality in understanding that plight? So that's kind of where we are with it. Not ask not what the freedman can do for you, but what can you do for the freedman?
That's right. So we are going to start wrapping this thing up. Brother Ali, you want to say anything before we get up off of here? We came, we saw, we conquered, we showed and proved like we always do.
I want to thank everybody who tuned in, and hopefully we helped some people out in terms of understanding, cleared up any confusion or misdirection with anything on Twitter or whatever You know, L and Bay are not free national names. They're not national names. They're not. There's nothing you can present that's going to prove that they are. This is just like pseudo mumbo jumbo coming from Moorish rogue Moors who are not even members of the Moorish Science Temple. Just
if they
making
were members,
up stuff.
If they were members, they would read the literature and see where the man explained what free national name means.
Thank you.
You know,
there.
We've been doing this for how many years? We don't send us no emails, bro. We don't want to read that crap. We don't want to read.
He thinks the crazy thing is he thinks he has some kind of new information. He thinks he's got something that we haven't already seen. This is what's crazy.
Doesn't know who we are. I don't know.
Yeah, he don't, and you know,
it doesn't.
The
matter.
Same kind of arguments that you're making have been made 10, 15, 20 years ago, man. None of that stuff is new, dude. Like it, and it's easy to prove it wrong. It's easy to prove it wrong. Like I don't even have to pull up documents and like y'all be going through all of these documents and shit. You know what I'm saying? Nobody even has to do that at this point. I could do this shit half asleep, playing, you know, messing around with you jokers, man. That stuff is trash. Apollo Bay. He said, I bet you never seen this. Yeah, okay, bro. We've never seen it, I'm sure. You got some real deep, brand new science that no one's ever seen or heard before.
The history, like your internet connection, not even good. Anyway, you know, Brother Josh, you had anything you wanted to? I'm ready to get off of here as well.
Yes, sir.
And we might do a Twitter. Let me say, we might do a Twitter space tomorrow to kind of recap this conversation. So make sure y'all follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are in the description. Become a member of the channel. Let's grow this thing. We're gonna keep teaching the truth. We don't have to have 2,000 and 3,000 live listeners for us to be right and exact. We're gonna be right and exact if we only got 2 people watching us live and
impactful. Bro,
and impactful.
Don't forget the impact that we've had on our family. Like just think about how many people we see now calling themselves freedmen. People that weren't even listeners of ours.
That's right.
Right? They're not BTP listeners. A lot of them don't even necessarily know who we are. But you look all across the internet, man, you see all these freedmen. You see freedmen rooms in Clubhouse. You see freedmen Twitter spaces.
That's right.
You know, all throughout social media, people calling themselves freedmen. That starts here.
Freedmen, everything.
That starts here. It is what it is. Like, it ain't no, you know, ain't no patent on the back and all that stuff. But I'm just saying, even with the small numbers that we have on YouTube, the impact has been amazing.
That's right. And they don't like that, Ali. They don't like that. They see that the term is proper. They just don't like that the fact we're the ones that resurrected it, which is crazy. I don't care who resurrected the term. If it's proper, I'm using it. It's just as simple as that. Show and prove. Okay, damn, they showed and prove. I'm using it. It's right and exact. It's as simple as that. So, I mean, you know, we gonna get up out. Josh, I don't know if you were finished.
Nope, I'm good, bro. Peace, everybody. Holler at y'all tomorrow.
So we might do a Twitter space tomorrow, breaking down a little bit, you know, a recap and a breakdown of what we presented tonight. And so look out for that. I'm not sure 100%, but right now that's just the feeling that I have, that I want to do it. You know, this dude said, what did the slaves build before 1865 in America? This is you know, it's, let me put it up on the screen. I'll take us out with this, right? It's such an ignorant question.
New York City. But go ahead.
New York City, the economy of this country. What else, Ali?
Philadelphia.
I mean, Philadelphia, right? The White House.
The White House.
This shows that these people are not studying history. They are studying sovereign citizen, pseudo-legal mumbo jumbo that is disguised as some form of Moorish science or Moorish information. What did the slaves build before 1865 in America?
Before 1865.
Do you even go ahead, Ali? Jeez.
Google Stoke the Moor. I think he's the one that asked that. Oh yeah, Stoke the Moor. Just go to Google and look up. Just put in there, the slaves built New York City.
That's all you gotta do.
Just Google that. The slaves built New York City, and read the stuff that comes up. Preferably go to the stuff that comes up from the New York Public Library or the New York Historical Society, and read about the foundations of New York City and how it was built by enslaved and free Africans. How they built this, they cleared the land, made the streets, built the first hospital, first firehouse, the first the first that.
That's right.
They built Wall Street. All of this stuff, man. There was even a segment of New York City called the Land of the Blacks. Now, this is another one for you, Stoke the Moor. Google New York City, the Land of the Blacks.
That's right.
Look that up.
That's right. Wait,
all right, I'm out.
All right, no doubt. I want to pull this one up before we get out of here. Another ignorant comment. These faceless people with these made-up internet names. And usually I try not to give these people any light because they are nothing but distractions and succubuses looking for energy and attention.
Hold on, I don't even know. I don't know if the context of the statement, and he might be trying to say that it was slavery that made America powerful. That's when I read that. That's kind of if that's what you're saying, then I agree with that.
Well, the way I read it was that America wasn't powerful before, America wasn't powerful during slavery.
Oh.
Well, just pull up the Monroe Doctrine, family. That's all you have to do. If you need,
you saying you're saying you interpreted to say it only became powerful after slavery ended.
He said America only became powerful after slavery. If that's what you think, then simply pull up the Monroe Doctrine and check the date, family. Check the date. And then check the date on when slavery ends in the United States. These people don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I think it seems like the context of what he's saying is it became powerful because of what you should have written to make it more clear.
You giving him too much credit.
Yeah,
too much credit.
You should have said because of slavery.
What he should have said was because of slavery. But that's America only. You haven't read anything. I bet he hasn't read, or she. I'm gonna guess this is a he. Haven't read the Federalist Papers or the Anti-Federalist Papers. These people are not reading anything. We don't do microwave scholarship over here. This thing slow bakes like your Thanksgiving turkey that you got to put on at 3 a.m. and then take out of the oven like the next day. This is what we're doing over here. And it takes time. Takes time. So, I could keep going, but I'm not. We're going to get off this thing. Look out for us on, why do we got these trolls in this chat? Look out for us tomorrow on Twitter. We might do a space where we do a recap and emphasize some of what we touched on tonight, and also get to some of the things that we didn't have a chance to get to. So if you're on Twitter, make sure you check.
I think that would be good. Do a little Twitter space tomorrow.
Yeah,
you know, we could have Sister Roz and other family members come on and talk too.
That's right. That's right. So look, family, I am going to take us out of here with the platform's motto. First, I'm gonna say what my brother Logic's motto, which is politics is the game, and government is the game, and politics is how it's played. Right? Government is the game, and politics is how it's played. Then I'm gonna take us out of here with the motto that I use on the platform, which is don't just fight the power, become the power. And then and only then will you have the power to make a change. And with that, I say peace.